The guild master shouts Hinata Lariak's name, and she screeches to a stop, then turns around with zero clue that trouble is already on its way. He barrels right into Hinata's space, spits that he's nothing but useless trash, someone who can't do a thing except stir potions. With one sharp finger jabbed toward him, the man tells Hinata to his face, "We don't need you anymore." And it gets way worse when he drops the bombshell. Starting today, Hinata is officially kicked out of the guild. Hinata is so stunned he can barely breathe. He blurts out, "Why did you? So tell me, why is all this even happening in the first place?" He still can't wrap his head around it after sweating for 3 brutal years. But the boss doesn't give a damn. Apothecary Hinata Lariak stands there, completely frozen in place. He stood there, trying to make sense of how his whole life shattered in a single second. The guildmaster straight up says it's been exactly 3 years since he seized control of the medical guild. And the guy running everything, Guildmaster Gake Silva, looks like he's got an ego so massive it practically stomps the ground. Because as he talks, he reveals the crazy truth. His dad just handed him full control to do whatever he wants now that those 3 years are finally over. Gake Silva stood there like he ruled the world, smugly telling Hinata that from this moment on, the guild was officially his property. And he jabs a finger straight at the kid's face, unleashing his new power to declare it. Hinata is officially banished. Hinata locks eyes on the new boss, realizes everything is about to change. The boss has always sneered at anyone who makes potions, and it's made everything basically impossible since that dam. It stripped him down to nothing, and shoved him to grind out results with the absolute worst ingredients anyone could find. Hinata squeezed every ounce of skill he had just to get it all working, because he's the last potion maker left. He locks eyes with the master and tells him, "You can't just slam me with this sudden decision." But I can't. He refuses to stop, he just keeps pushing forward. He's telling everyone he busted his ass for years without a single complaint, and he just wants the real reason, no more guessing. Sharply challenges him like, "Are you seriously too slow to get what's happening right now?" He leans in and tells Sonata that this is the real deal in medicine, no make-believe at all. Those run-of-the-mill low-level guild dudes who only churn out potion mixes are basically bottom feeders who, people like that don't belong anywhere near him, so they get out and Hinata is left behind. Still, he didn't just stand there. Those brutal words absolutely shattered him. Gaek's arrogance explodes. He starts bragging about his magical doc. Doctors are the real elites, those who clawed their way through university. And he says that compared to guys at their level, potion makes just a bunch of trash people who don't even bother getting a license to do the job. The other guild members pile in insisting potion might. They just slack off, then they can mix their own stuff anytime anyway. And one of them blurts out to Hinata that, so honestly, commoners should just stick to that. They shove him into low-level jobs, screaming that he's worthless, and he just stands there, taking every insult without fighting back. They tell him to get a job that finally fits him. And Hinata instantly realizes this whole firing excuse is pure nonsense because he knows the magical doctors technically sit above the potion makers. That's just because you've gotta be a noble to even get into the path of becoming a doctor. So yeah, but he can't stand the idea of judging someone's past without even checking what they can actually do. He put a finger up, told Hinata she looked absolutely miserable, but then he dropped the real bombshell. Getting the boot isn't just for that. The vibe flips in an instant when Gaek snaps that a patient actually died from a potion Hinata brewed just yesterday, and the kid just freezes solid. Gaek slams a bottle onto the table as literal proof of Hinata's mistake. Then everything goes sideways when it makes Hinata snatch the bottle to inspect it, and he snaps back that there's no way, no even bad potion could ever end someone's life. And when he stares at the liquid, a sickening dread hits him. He's sure someone secretly swapped what was in his bottle. Hinata snaps up and tells them point blank, "This isn't my work." But before it can land, Gaek jabs a finger at him and barks, "Stop lying." The master keeps screaming, like every word is a command nobody dares to ignore. He shoots back that he's the only potion maker here, so yeah, whatever's in that bottle is automatically his blame. Hinata blurts out that their logic doesn't even hold up. That doesn't add up. Just moments ago they said anyone could mix potions, so the fact that But the doctors just laughed it off, sneering, "Why would we waste our time doing his asterisk job?" Gaek snaps that he should count his blessings. They're only banishing him, not putting him on trial, and tells him to not. Nada finally snaps to it. Talking back is just wasting his breath. He's absolutely sickened, so they'll just fake a death to get rid of him. But Gaek isn't finished, and the second he smirks, you can tell he's cooked up yet another cruel idea. Gaek blurts out that today is Hinata's 6th sister's birthday, and the kid can only stare in pure shock as he confirms it. Gaek flash is a downright brutal. A sharp-toothed grin flashes, and he leans in to tell Hinata that the timing for this is dead-on perfect. He keeps heckling him, yelling that now Hinata has an awesome story to spill for his sister's birthday gift, only to leave the kid shaking with pure terror. Gaek screams that Hinata's salary was so wrecked it couldn't buy a real present anyway. Then the poor guy just stands there, shaking like crazy while he blurts out begging for any severance at all, but Gaek just scoffs in his face, calling him cruel and shutting him down with one cold truth. He gets nothing. Hinata goes for broke, asking Gaek one last time for a new job recommendation. Then Gaek just turns and walks off like, yeah, that's not happening. Then it hits Hinata, these people don't care at all. He cared for him for a split second, then dropped his gaze and told them to forget it. He knows he still needs a mountain of cash to cure his sister's illness, and with his back slammed against the wall, Hinata realizes he's got no choice but to gamble it all as an adventurer. Then the second he blurts it out loud, the doctors turn to him and ask if he's a complete idiot. Then the entire group erupts into laughter and splashed across his face like he just heard the funniest thing in the whole world. Gaek raises a finger. He points a finger and snaps Hinata's attention, telling her to listen for a second, because the other. Even before doctors can jump in, that bullcut guy tears into Hinata, calling her a total failure just because she's got only 3 skills. That big guy bursts into laughter, bragging that nowadays even a 10-year-old can chain together 20 skills in a single fight. Hinata insists he might be right, but the moment he opens his mouth, defeat washes over him so hard that it's like everything just collapses. When Gaek snaps that none of those skills are even meant for combat, he leans in and tells him straight up, there's no way he'll ever become an adventurer. Hinata stands frozen by herself, realizing their words hit harder than she wanted to admit, and that they're dead-on true. Only abilities, medicine compounding, material activation, and material. And realizing every one of them is only built to feed a potion maker, nothing more. Gaek twists the knife, snarling at Hinata that he's got no talent, then tells him to just go die in a ditch with his sister. He waves him off like it's nothing, then shuts the goodbye door, leaving Hinata to stagger out with literally nothing left. Hinata lets out a heavy sigh like the whole world is crushing his chest, and then just like that, everything. He hit rock bottom and tore his way back. Now he's finally standing at his own front door yelling, I'm home. But he's stuck in his own head, freaking out about how he's even going to break the bad news to his sister, especially since his cousin Asego is right there, grinning like crazy as she welcomes him back. She's an unbelievably sweet, dependable girl who spends her days helping Hinata take care of. He steps in to take care of his 6th sister, and she spots him standing there frozen mid-moment staring. And she rushes in, asking if he's okay because she clocked how deathly pale he looked, and he asks what's wrong, and Hinata just blurts out that he's feeling a little off as the two of them slide into seats at the kitchen table and start catching up, right there together. A brave sag-out girl fights to keep her chin up, refusing to let the bad vibes win. Hinata, he leaned in, smiling through the worry, telling her it's all going to work out, and vows she'll grind even harder starting now, to make sure everything finally gets better for both of them. Asego does everything she can to help out, and she even earns some cash from home while, as he rushed to look after Hinata's sister. His sister handled the small stuff, fixing magic tools, then prepping herbs like it was part of the fate she was building. She stares at an auto with a stunned, searching look, like something S about to click. A warm smile spreads across his face and tells him he's already done enough, hard-earned through and through. But Hinata rubs his eyes, blurts out a thank you to her, and feels his heart sink because of everything she's doing for them. A calm voice from the doorway suddenly calls out, brother, and the guard freezes. Standing right there is Hinajiku Larier, young, long-haired, and you can tell she's been fighting off sickness for days. Hinata shouts her name, she's his precious little sister, and you can tell he's freaking out because she clearly caught their whole conversation. Then he snaps his gaze away, swallowing his pride as he apologizes for being such a pathetic brother. Hinajiku doesn't buy it for a second. She leans in and tells him straight up that she knows he's actually incredible. She flashes him a huge grin and tells him straight up that everyone else just doesn't get how amazing he really is. Hinata snaps to the truth. These two are the only reason he can keep moving, and right then Hinajiku lifts his gaze. He finally stood up, looking him in the eye, and thanked him for everything he's done. He knows he has to keep driving forward for them, but the second he sees her head slump, he realizes she's nodding off, right there in the moment. As he grips her, Hinata's heart drops through the floor. He can feel how much weight she's been losing lately, and it hits him like a punch. Asego shrugs off the tension, flashing a grin at Hinajiku and laughing. It's not fair. She gets all the attention, sure, but the little girl bursts into giggles. She tells the Sago she'll trade places later and promise him a turn to sit with her big brother. Hinata just stares at her with this soft, gentle look, like the words are stuck in her throat. Seeing her this happy, my heart just lights up, and suddenly every ounce of struggle feels like it mattered. With a calm heart, he swears in total silence that he'll find a cure for her illness, no matter what it costs him. He clenches his hand into a brutal fist, because if he's going to save her, he's got to plunge way deeper into potion research than he ever has. He's just praying he lands a real job that finally pays enough to cover the costs. He hustles all night, and by tomorrow he's already out there in the city. Standing in the middle of a loud, chaotic market street, Hinata shuts out the noise and clears his mind. No more spiraling, it's time to stop worrying and start. He hit the streets and started hunting for work. Hinata strides through the city, wondering if he's stuck making potions, then a medicine shop is his best shot at a real job. He's desperate to find a spot where he can actually keep his research going on the side, because he's clearly, "So yeah, I'm absolutely done with the medical guild, like, completely done," and I'm. Just as he's plotting his next move, something nearby snaps his attention like a spotlight. His fierce stare nails him and he freezes on the spot. He spots a girl camped outside a shop stall, looking absolutely stunning and completely lost, as she stares at the shelves like she doesn't know where to begin. He leans in and asks her straight up, "Are you okay?" because he's ready to help if something's wrong. The girl whirls around, introduces herself as Yumi, and there's this electric glow around her that just pulls you in, like, instantly. It totally blindsides him. She's right there and all he can do is stare, thinking how unbelievably beautiful she is. Yumi admits she came to grab crafting supplies for herself, only to realize she has no idea what she's even looking for. What she's staring at. Hinata jumps in to help her pick out the right stuff, and it shocks her so hard she freezes in place. Then she blurts out, "You're really cool with doing this," while the shopkeeper stays buried in the back. He's glued to his newspaper like nothing else exists, clutching that paper and shutting out everything else. The shopkeeper just stays planted behind the counter, doing nothing but daring trouble to show up. He lets out a frustrated groan, then stays buried in his newspaper like nothing can reach him. Hinata leans in for a closer look, eyes locked on the details. He scans the shop's shelves, and the second he spots what's off about the items, his eyes go wide as his hands start grabbing for answers. He and Yumi huddle together over the displays, staring down at all the crafting materials laid out before them. The shelves are crammed with bundles of plain wood, and every single stack comes with a price tag that's ridiculously high for what you're actually getting. Even those tiny potted plants are shoved into their little boxes, tagged with the same insane prices like it's a joke, yet they still want you to pay. As he moves along the line, even the fruit in the baskets is just the same rigged deal. Everything here gets marked up way beyond what it's actually worth. Hinata nearly drops his jaw when he sees the price tags, thinking, "Are you kidding me? This is insanely expensive and this whole place feels like a scam." He snaps a look back at the man. The guy behind the counter squinted, convinced the shopkeeper was a total sneaky old fox. Because once he looked at the numbers, it all clicked. Now he finally gets why someone like Yumi would struggle right here, with prices like these. Because if you're an amateur, you won't even realize you're getting ripped off until it's too late. He tightens his gear, ready to step in and help her out. No way he's letting her burn her money on this trash. Hinata clenched his eyes shut, focused hard, and then snapped his special vision on like a switch. A blazing magic circle materialized straight above his eye as he shouts his material appraisal skill. He's itching to find out exactly what those shop items are worth. The very first plant he checks is pure trash, some bottom-tier F-rank herb that he shoves aside in seconds, until he finally spots a B-rank. Crank mixes in that bargain medicinal herb. Then his eyes widen because this time, it's a legit, awesome find. Yumi glances at what he chose and says she's in, because that herb looks like the perfect pick, but she's basically spiraling over his skill, blurted out questions about whether he can really do material appraisal, and gushing that he's absolutely amazing. She keeps hyping him up, calling that kind of skill a massive gift, while Hinata just scratches his head, trying to play it cool and act humble. He shrugs it off and says with a grin that he still got fired even with that skill, leaving Yumi totally stunned and lost. She locks eyes with him and snaps into action, demanding Hinata explain why he won't just join her group, especially since he's clearly already eyeing it. That offer slams into him out of nowhere, and he just freezes there, eyes wide with shock, mouth stuck open because he can't find the words. Yumi starts spilling the whole story to Hinata, and tells her she was actually the one who got put. He seized control of a brand new merchant guild from the very start, and she admits they're badly short-staffed right now. Hinata stares at her, totally unsure he's the right guy because he shoots the question right back, "Are you really sure?" and reminds her he's just a run-of-the-mill potion maker. Yumi doesn't even blink, she tells him straight up, it's a done deal as long as he's ready to take the job. Hinata can't stop thinking about how a merchant guild sounds like the exact kind of opportunity he should snatch up fast, but doubts still claw at him. So he finally tells her the truth. Sure, he needs the work, but there's another problem crawling up that he can't ignore. He tells you he has to keep digging into potions, because only that can save his sister, and honestly, he's not sure he's built for a role that huge. Yumi's face brightens instantly. She practically beams and tells him, "That's exactly why this job is perfect for you." She tells him the guild pulls in all sorts of rare materials, perfect fuel for his research. And that's when Hinata finally clicks and realizes this might actually work. The deal is finally locked in. Lyra Bose turns to Hinata and tells him she'd love to have him on board. Hinata bows again, flashing a grin as he says he's genuinely pumped to team up with us. Just as they set off, Lyra's real name spills out, Lyra Leonhardt, and it hits. She's not just part of the Merchant Guild, she's running the whole thing. Hinata finally clocks it. He's really headed to a place called World Tree, and as they push through the roaring market, it hits him like a wave. This is actually happening. He's still reeling from how insanely fast everything flipped, especially with how Lyra's still so young, and he can't believe it. He tells her it's honestly wild that she's already a guild master at her age. As they keep rolling forward, Hinata can't stop himself from thinking, "Man, I got ridiculously lucky snagging a new job this fast." Lyra flat out admits she's got so much more to learn. Hinata keeps pushing through the strain of wrestling that heavy box, and even while she's struggling, he's just overwhelmed with gratitude, because he feels like he can't possibly thank her enough for giving him this chance. Hinata glances at everything she's carrying, feels something weird about it, and then, right in the middle of it all, she halts for a second and then he demands Lyra explain what it is. Right now, and Lyra stares down at the stuff in her arms, sounding a little unsure as she scrambles for the right answer. They both lock eyes on the basket she's holding, and it's packed with these creepy dark plants that just scream a nightmare is about to happen. Hinata stares at the plants and boom, he realizes he doesn't even need his appraisal skill to tell that everything in the basket is basically F-rank trash, just pure junk. Lyra's eyes well up as she blurts out that she got played into buying them, and now she's completely lost on what to do next. Hinata's desperate to help, so he blurts out that he can borrow the materials for just a second. Only Lyra's left totally baffled, wondering why he'd even want them. But she can't get her questions out fast enough. He fired his material boost skill and sprang the plants to life right in front of her. At first, the plant is just a weak little F-rank medicinal herb, but the moment the magic surges it starts glowing, then bam, it transforms into a way better D-rank herb. Hinata wipes the sweat off his face and asks if it's made the herbs any more usable, but Lyra just freezes there, absolutely stunned. She suddenly snatches his hands, blurts out that he's honestly incredible, and leaves Hinata frozen in total shock at her reaction. Lyra gapes at the upgraded materials, stunned into silence, whispering that she's never ever seen a skill like this before, and Hinata just scratches the back of his head like it's no big deal, casually admits it's a pretty useful skill, but then he trails off, like there's more he can't help but say. Yep, turns out this is the real deal. And as if that weren't enough, it explains his unique gift like only he could. He chuckles it off and tells her straight up that honestly this might be the only decent thing about him. Lyra snaps and blurts, "What do you mean by only? From where I'm standing, this is way more than enough and I can't." She can't believe he just grabs literal garbage and somehow breathes it back to life. And then she looks him dead in the eye and tells him, straight up, that he's incredible. Hinata's cheeks burn because nobody ever praised him like that, so he quickly blurted that he was just glad he could help. As they head down the road, Hinata can't stop thinking about how Lyra had the guts to hire him, so he locks in, ready to do anything for her, and then right behind them someone suddenly screams, "Stop, wait." They both whip around as some guy yells at Hinata to stop calling him out, right there on the street, while he's standing as the potion maker. The girl blocking their path looks downright furious at Hinata. She's standing there with her hands on her hips like, here she is. And it's painfully obvious. Hinata clocks her instantly. There's no doubt this is Rena, the guild master's darling, because she's coming in like she's hunting for a fight, and it all clicks. She's one of the reasons he got fired. Hinata scrambles to recall her own name while Lyra presses, "Who are you?" And he blurts out that she's someone he once worked with at the medical guild. He wants zero drama, so he leans in and asks what she's after. He reminded her that ever since they kicked him out, they really shouldn't be talking. Renad ignores the small talk and barks, "Give me the warehouse key," leaving Hinata completely stunned, because he has no clue why she cranks up her voice and blasts him with the accusation, he stole it. Because when they fired him, he stormed out of the guild and never came back for the key. Hinata just stared at her like she was trying to read her soul. She just stared blankly like, all right, what wild nonsense is she about to pull now? Before he even gets a word out, she yanks his arm and orders him to move, because a patient is right there and they're about to die. She grabs him and yanks him across the street, snapping nonstop about how they can't afford to waste time trudging all the way back to the guild warehouse. They're never gonna reach in time, Lyra just freezes, eyes wide, while Hinata gets dragged off right in front of her. Hinata starts shaking with doubt, like something deep inside him just won't stop second-guessing everything. He mutters that he'll probably be useless even if he shows up, yet somehow, he still feels like he's got to get something off his chest. He tells Rena the truth. It was her who said they didn't need his help anymore. He keeps badgering her, insisting they should totally be able to mix those potions on their own, but Renat's done playing. She shuts him down, barks hush, and pushes him to move because time is slipping away fast. Hinata finally caves and admits, yeah, I get it. Because if someone's life hangs in the balance, he can't just turn his back and walk away. He trails her, admitting he swore he'd never cross paths with that guild master again. Yet somehow here he is, staring at the nightmare all over again. He kept telling himself they shouldn't have to endure pain just because that guild staffer was being a jerk. He finally realizes the brand new materials he bought are right there with him. Lyra's on him as he pivots, then he blurts, asking if she's truly okay with it. Lyra doesn't even pause, she just tags along with them, no hesitation. And she smirks like, don't worry, I'm coming too. So Hinata rubs the back of his head, blushing, and blurts out that he's sorry for pulling her into all this ugly guild drama. Lyra tells Hinata it's nothing, because in her heart he's already a precious, irreplaceable treasure. Their companion keeps pace as they head down the road. She flashes him a huge smile and promises she'll go out with him, but the way she says it makes his heart drop. He completely loses his cool, breaks into a wild blush and blurts, go out, back to her, over and over. Lyra suddenly clocks what she just said. Flames of embarrassment shoot across her face, and she clamps a hand over her mouth in pure, stunned panic. She starts flailing her hands and panicking, insisting she didn't mean they were dating at all, while Hinata just awkwardly laughs it off. The moment Lyra glances away, the whole air turns awkward. She scrambles for her thoughts, but her face stays blazing red. But then she looks up shyly and blurts out that even if it really did end up that way, she doesn't even mind it one bit. She lets that suggestion just dangle there, quietly hanging, leaving her. He storms off, leaving Hinata frozen in shock, scratching his head like, wait, no way, I can't believe I just heard that. He's not sure if his ears are lying to him, then he snaps forward and tells them, move, let's go. Hinata tries to bully his own mind into believing that the woman he just met could never possibly say it like that. And he figures Lyra's just trying to be kind to him because she must have sensed the brutal memories still clinging to him from his old workplace. That's exactly why she jumped at the chance to tag along with him, because he honestly thinks she's just unbelievably thoughtful. And somehow he's still kind, no tricks, no mystery, just that. Then it hits him. Maybe the secret desires he's been burying are messing with his mind and conjuring voices that aren't even real. Something in his head is definitely horribly wrong. The two of them press on, step after step, until they finally stumble right into the medical guild. They're standing right before that colossal building, bracing themselves to take on whatever's waiting inside. Inside, Gayak Silva sits there like he owns the place, already acting way too proud as he introduces himself. Gayak Silva starts flexing hard, claiming he runs a medical guild where only the absolute elite get through the doors. He rants about how amazing it felt to blast that useless potion maker yesterday, until a guild member barges in and cuts him off. Kira, somehow already looking totally clueless, steps in and straight up admits he doesn't have a single clue where the anesthesia potions are kept. Gayak whips around and points at the shelves, absolutely losing it, calling that guy a total piece of trash because he didn't even know that. He mutters to himself, why do I have to? He finally took out one fool, but the rest around him are still useless as ever. Kira gets stranded, forced to wander the storage area alone, searching for any way out. Looking totally wrecked, he spots a shelf, but then panic hits because he can't even tell an anesthetic from an antidote, and right then Jayak. He burst out screaming again, ripping into the guy like, you should have mastered this basic stuff back in university. He's so done with it that he straight up confronts the guy and asks, are you trying to get fired too? Kira blurts out that being a magical doctor doesn't mean he knows a single thing about potions. Gayak is losing it, screaming at everyone to figure out who can even tell their potions apart, while the staff just stares there like they're helpless, straight up admitting they don't know which one is which. So one of the guys blurts out, all right, what's the guild master gonna do about this mess? Gayak snaps at them, demanding how he's supposed to know any of that. Then he lets out a heavy sigh and mutters that he'll just take it on himself. And now he's about to make his move, he decides. He jabbed a finger at one of his staff and demanded he chug the mystery potion, right there, as the ultimate test. He tells them if the guy drops out, it's the anesthetic, but if nothing happens, you've got the antidote. The guy hits the ground hard and Gayak just stares down at him, then barks at the unconscious man to finally be useful, now that the potion's been identified. He storms off, grumbling that it's going to be a brutal, packed day, because he's stuck working with a bunch of idiots. Right when he's mid-complaint, a second staff member barrels in, skidding to a stop and yelling that a massive emergency just hit and they've got to handle it. Now, Gayak finally believes the spotlight is his. He's ready to prove to everyone just how damn skilled he really is, but the second he peeks into the ward, he freezes dead in his tracks. The entire place is a wreck, injured people sprawled across the floor, patients everywhere, and everyone else spiraling into pure panic. The staff thrusts GAYEC into the medical ward, and the place is packed, people sprawled everywhere. Then someone yells that the disaster is right there, while others scramble to keep the whole mess moving. Gayak freezes, staring at the wreckage in stunned silence. Realizing this wasn't a random accident at all, somebody just detonated a terrorist bombing. He jerks himself back to reality and unleashes a storm of orders on the staff. Grab every single potion you've got right now, because time is running out and they've got to move. Looks like they're headed for a nightmare of brutal surgeries. Then Gayak steps right up and starts throwing healing spells anyway. Blood and chaos everywhere, yet he's grinning like he's got it handled. Because with his medical magic, this disaster feels like a cakewalk. After hours of brutal work, Gayak finally slams to a stop, wipes the sweat off his face, and looks completely wrecked from draining every last drop of power. He tells the team they somehow clawed their way through the worst of it, and right then his own staff starts fawning over him, swearing this is the guild master they've always known. Right when everything finally starts to calm down, another worker bursts in, sprinting like crazy, shouting that a huge emergency just hit. The guy screams that Viscount Zirconia just got stabbed, and they're hauling him in right this second. Then Gayak's face goes totally wide-eyed with pure panic. He doesn't have a clue who that guy is, so he blurts it out and yells, demanding, "Who?" This Viscount is supposed to be the real deal. Gayak reads the news and instantly spirals, convinced the terrorist bombing is a massive catastrophe. It might sound insane on its own, but the wildest part is a Viscount actually got stabbed right in the middle of all that chaos. He realizes this whole disaster could light the fuse to a full-on war, and it's all happening the minute they booted that worthless kid Hinata and tried to kick the plan into gear. A dark, greedy glint snaps across Gake's face as he hatches a plan to turn this disaster into his own payday, because all he cares about is. He worries about his own standing, because if he can rescue the Viscount himself, he'll be a hero. So he strides up and orders the staff to hand everything over to him. The guy's practically salivating at the idea of a powerful noble owing him a favor, so he bursts into the room and promises, no doubt about it, that he'll save the man's life. Gayak barks ruthless orders at his team to cram a massive pile of potions, but one worker freezes in pure panic and tries to cut him off. The worker jabs a finger at the empty bottles on the floor and blurts that the potion they just used was the very last one, leaving Gok totally speechless. Things are getting worse fast. Turns out healing magic alone can't fix something this brutal, and they're realizing it in real time. If those potions don't come to the rescue, the Viscount's wounds will never heal right, no matter how much magic they hurl at him. Gayak tries to play it cool, swearing they burned through tons of supplies today and there's nothing they could do about it. But his control is starting to slip, because sweat started pouring down his face, and it was only getting worse. Gayak jabs his finger at the door and roars at a worker to sprint to the storehouse for more supplies. Then the guy bolts off fast. Jayak keeps fighting to stay composed, and Gayak just shrugs, no worries. We'll lean on medical magic until the potions finally show up. He stares at the wound and barks that they just have to buy time by stopping the bleeding. Then a worker bursts in, screaming that something's gone terribly wrong. Gayak fires back, so what now? And the worker turns paperwhite, stammering that the storeroom won't open. It finally clicks. Hinata probably ditched the key and never returned it before he left, and now it's clear. Hinata's still crashing into the guild's life and causing problems even after being. Gayak totally snaps. He rips into a full-on rage and screams at them to hunt down the potion maker and bring him back right now. He keeps snapping orders to get the potions ready, and the staff scrambles to keep up with his every move. But the Viscount's man snaps at last. He can't take it anymore and he barges in shouting, what the hell is actually going on? What's wrong with this guild? He doesn't even pause, he barrels forward, screaming at everyone to knock it off and save the situation before it slips away. Save the Viscount's life right now. Kira's drenched in sweat as he fights to force his magic to work, apologizing non-stop and practically begging for just a little more time. But the Viscount's crew is done with it. They keep snapping and yelling at him until Hinata and Lyra finally burst in. Hinata jumps right in and snaps, where's the patient? Renault jabs him in the right direction, dragging his gaze to the back where he lays eyes on the total disaster Kira's wrecking in the treatment. And it looks really bad. He can tell the magic Kira is throwing around might not be wrong after all. But it's still not even close to being enough to fix this. Kira whips her head around and like a total jerk, snaps at Hinata that she's late. They kept ranting that they couldn't seal the wounds without potions. He doesn't stop there, he keeps going in deeper and deeper. He fired insults at Hinata, screaming that guys like him are always too slow to keep up. Hinata blew the delivery off and bolted out of there. Lyra snaps and demands what the hell that guy's deal is, but Hinata just waves it off like, it's fine. She can't wrap her head around how calm he is. Then he smiles, looks at her, and thanks her for flying off the handle for him. Hinata grips that heavy delivery bag with both hands, braced and ready to rip it free. To rip out the D-rank herbs and yank the C-rank slime core they needed to make the fix. He snaps into action, launching his compounding skill, and forming a magic circle like a spark igniting midair. A burst of light floods the room and boom, an instant C-rank healing potion. His hands blur into motion, pumping out an entire batch. Potions flying so fast that Lyra blurts out, "Oh my, how insanely amazing he is." Hinata tells her in medicine speed is everything. That matters because over at the bed the other doctors are still there, watching every second. But every time they report it to the guild master, that wound just won't heal. Kira starts snapping, screaming at the sky, baffled as his magic starts failing right in front of him. Not noticing the wound refusing to close fast enough, because they're already running late. So he plunges his hand into his bag and snaps, "We've got to do something else." Lyra stares as he snatches something brand new, then blurts out, "What did you grab?" He breaks it down. This is his personal stash, the one he's been saving for his sister's future. Lyra's jaw drops when she spots a C-ranked root of the Tree of Life, and she can barely breathe as it hits her. And then some B-rank sunlight ore. And even more, he knew those items were insanely rare, like you could only find them in legends. She asks if he's really okay using them and he brushes it off. "I'm fine, really." Because watching someone about to die right in front of his eyes is. Because this is something he can't just brush off, he flat out refuses to watch them die. Lyra just freezes in place, staring at him like every word just hit her straight in the heart. Hinata steadies his breath as a glowing light starts to swarm around his hands. And that look in his eyes is brutally intense. He's completely locked into the moment like nothing else exists, staring straight at the. He yanks it into action, activates his medical magic, and a massive glowing surge blasts out like a sunrise mid-battle. A summoning circle lights up as he screams, demanding the synthesis. Every flash lights up the whole world. Right as the magic flickers into view, you can see exactly how much raw power he's pouring into it. A beam of light blasts open, and out tumbles a top-tier B-rank recovery potion. Only it looks. Hinata whips it over fast and you can't help but stare. Then she snaps, telling them they've got to use it right now because the doctor is completely stunned, barely able to believe what he just heard. But Kira snatches it and jumps to work, pouring the medicine over the Viscount's injury. Somehow the wound seals up on the spot, and everyone lets out a huge breath of relief. Hinata huffs out a massive sigh, saying thank every star that it all finally worked out. Then Renaz grins at him like it's payback for the stress. It's only because of that potion. Hinata just rubs the back of his head and laughs it off, like he's still catching his breath. They actually pulled it off, somehow, and in the background you can hear everyone just bursting with gratitude. Right as the doctor yells that the patient is finally awake, and then he sits up only for the Viscount to look totally wrecked as someone asks, "So how are you feeling?" But he doesn't waste a second, he lunges right in and blurts out his intro like, "I'm the Big B." Boss of the guild flashes this fake-ass sparkly grin and says he's looking for. The Viscount actually goes and buys it, then straight up thanks him for saving his life, while Gayak Bao plays it ultra humble, pretending he's honored, even though you can tell he's seriously deep. Lyra totally calls it out, and straight up asks Hinata if he's really fine with this guy taking all the credit for his hard work. Hinata just scratches the back of his head and laughs it off, going, "Potion makers work behind the scenes." But Lyra stares at him like he's being way too modest, especially since the Viscount perks right up, like he's just clocked something huge and can't believe what he's hearing. He jabs a finger at the table and demands to know what the deal is with that empty bottle sitting right there, before Hinata can even. Gayak lunges in and declares it's a bottle from a potion brewed by some absolute loser. Tells the Viscount that guy, he's only our old potion maker, nothing more. Maker, the Viscount made it sound like he wasn't anything special, just nods along while Gayak keeps hurling trash talk, saying the guy was only good for mixing stuff and had zero skills, and then the Viscount's tone snapped right into compliance, like a command that couldn't be ignored. He fires back, asking if Gayak is seriously claiming he got saved by the very person he thinks is trapped. Trash Joykak, trash, then Joykak again. Just stands there like a total fool, while the Viscount leans in and reminds him that as a guildmaster he's totally clueless about what's happening, like, what is even going on making. And then he starts sweating through his gay axe, damn the Viscount. He leans in even closer and drops the bomb. He claims he knows everything about how this guild runs and then he raises the bottle and shouts that it's a top-tier healing potion, and Gayak just freezes there with his jaw hanging wide, completely losing it. Gayak is straight up snapping, screaming at the top of his lungs about how there's no way a high-grade healing potion would ever be hiding in a dump like this. Viscount Zirconia jerked upright and demanded the full account, right now. Lyra steps in to tell him the truth, and that's the full story of what happens next. The Viscount locks eyes with Gayak, glaring and demands to know if it's true that the guild the master's screw-up nearly got him wiped out for good. Lyra hammers the truth down, explaining that Gayak straight up totally. He burned through the last of their supplies, and came this close to losing the Viscount right then and there. She makes it crystal clear. Without that high-grade potion, he never would have survived the injury, and Gayak starts freaking out. He's yelling at everyone how he's a Viscount, asking what they think they know. The Viscount cuts him off instantly, saying he's clearly smart enough to understand what's going on. Then he starts to looks like a gay act is trying to trick them. Then he snaps into a scary stare and blurts, "Are you the?" If that guy is seriously out there mocking the nobility. Bullets now he's got zero escape, and when they close in he can't even find the words to fight back, so the Viscount doesn't pause. He moves on and says, "I need to thank the one who really brewed this potion and who placed the order." He barks at them to call the maker in. The Viscount snaps at Gayak that he's finished and orders him to back off. Then the guildmaster just stands there, groaning in absolute defeat. Just then the real hero finally leapt into the spotlight, cutting off the moment with pure fate. Then it steps right up to Hinata and introduces itself, straight up claiming it's the one who actually brewed that high-grade potion. Hinata drops to one knee and says it's an honor to be called in, and the Viscount freezes, because now he finally realizes exactly who that kid is. Staring him right in the eye and hitting Hinata with the truth. He's the whole reason Hinata's still alive right now. I was blown away. Hinata managed to whip up a high-grade recovery potion on crazy short notice. Hinata keeps his ego in check, shrugging like, "I just happened to have it on me when everything blew up." When the Viscount heard Hinata had used his own stash, his confidence exploded. There was no doubt now that Hinata deserved a massive reward for what the Viscount offers to vouch for him to land the guild master spot, and Hinata instantly slams it down. So he leans in and tells the startled noble, "I don't work for the medical guild anymore." Hinata whips her hand toward Lyra and hypes her up to the Viscount like, "This is Lyra, she's the boss of the World Tree Merchant Guild," right there where he's standing. Hinata brings Lyra before the nobles, and Lyra lights up with confidence as she vows she'll be working at this new guild from now on, which the Viscount nods to, rubbing his chin as he promises he'll keep the World Tree Guild idea locked in his mind. He leans in and promises, "Whenever something hits, I'll be sure to call on your services." Hinata erupts with joy as he thanks the man, and once that whole mess finally blows over, the group turns to leave with a huge bag stuffed with reward money for every bit of help they gave. And on top of that, they even got a signed promise, permission to use the Viscount's name as their reference. Buzzing from the meeting, they were shouting that Hinata is totally amazing for saving the noble. And then they just kept going, trailing off like they couldn't even stop. I can't believe he went out of his way to promote her guild like crazy, and still didn't ask for a single thing back. Hinata rubs the back of his head and admits he only said her name to return the favor, and he flashed her a massive grin and basically said, "I didn't rescue him just to cash in on some reward." Lyra whips her gaze to him like something about to break. She flashed this soft, real smile like she meant every bit of it. She tells him she feels the exact same way he does, and that she didn't drag him into the guild just as some silly reward. With a massive blushing grin that practically lit up the room, she finally blurts it out. Turns out the real reason she asked him is simple. She genuinely wants to work with him. Hinata just stares her down, completely frozen in shock, and in a soft, stunned voice whispers her name. The two of them just stand there about to get. We were all together, grinning nonstop, absolutely buzzing because everything turned out perfectly. Back at the medical guild, a fist punches the wall with a sickening thud as someone screams in pure frustration. And he's completely losing his mind, asking why a regular potion maker is getting all the attention like it's something more. He keeps ranting to himself, blaming the whole disaster on Hinata, because she never handed back the warehouse key and the worst part, Hinata actually showed up with a girl. He's absolutely boiling with rage right now, caught on the thought of how unbearably annoying they. So yeah, everything boils down to this. Gayak jabs a finger straight at Hinata and roars that he better not let it go to his head. Then Hinata just stands there, totally stunned and utterly lost. Jayak keeps pushing forward, no brakes, no stopping, snapping at the kid like it was somehow his fault the Viscount nearly died in the first place. He can't believe Hinata would actually try to steal the whole credit, and Lyra just stands there, eyes wide with worry, watching from the side like she's waiting for the next blow to land. where I can't shake the feeling this is headed somewhere big. This guy just keeps slinging insults at Hinata, talking as if he's totally unbelievable. Gayak snaps out an order and demands that if he understands, he hands over the reward money and the warehouse key, then scrams. But Hinata doesn't even blink. He just stays cool and tells his old boss straight to the face that he can't do that. He goes, yeah, sure, like that's the whole answer. He could have technically just ditched the money and walked away. But there's a huge, no excuses reason he refuses to hand over those keys. Hinata blurts out that the warehouse was never locked at all, and Gayak just freezes there, staring like he's seen a ghost. Gayak stammers that it's impossible, but Hinata just slumps with a tired sigh, like she's done with this mess once and for all. Hinata fires up the group and promises them, once we hit the warehouse for real, everything will click. So they all rush over, crowd right up to the building and stare at it firsthand. He leans back with arms crossed, orders one of his guys to crack it open, then the guy just groans. He tried yanking the door open, but the second he did, Gayak cut him off with that F*G. I tried everything, but it just won't move. Nothing I do makes it budge an inch. Gayak immediately shoots his finger at someone and starts yelling his head off, yelling that he knew Hinata was lying, while Hinata only sighs, then presses a hand to his head. Then he shoots his hand out, clamps onto the handle, and he yanks the rope with everything he's got, and it gives way with a hard, decisive pull. The door blasts open like it owns the place, and everyone else is left frozen, staring in disbelief. Gayak totally snaps, he shrieks that it's impossible, while his guildmate just stares, stunned by what he's seeing, but Hinata just glances back and tells him the door is only a bit stubborn. Once you catch the trick, it swings right open. He's totally stunned like, wait, you're telling me you couldn't get inside this whole time? And it's honestly just mind-blowing. Gayak is already boiling with rage, arms crossed, snapping at Hinata for acting way too cocky lately. But Hinata doesn't even bat an eye. She coolly reminds him he's not part of this guild anymore. Jayakak, board in hand, told him to slap on a nuisance fee for the audacity of dragging him all the way out here with. Bayak snaps, he screams at Hinata to shut up, blaming him for not starting today's potion. Hinata fires back with the truth on the spot, straight up asking who shot him before he even had a chance to move. Then he fully doubles down, blasting out gay ex-trash while accusing them of a trash habit, dumping every single job onto everyone else. For a brief second he snapped at them, saying that letting things go so lazy nearly got someone killed. Then the entire guild fell silent. Hinata snapped at them to get it together starting now, and then he and Lyra took off. Storming away from Gayak, pure rage takes him. He hammers his fist into the wall as hard as he can. He's standing there seething, furious that he fired Hinata, and somehow still wound up looking like the biggest idiot in the room. Hinata straightens his glasses, and a wave of relief hits him, because now he never has to stare at Gayak's face again. But something still gnaws at him, forcing him to slam the brakes and think for a beat. He still remembers exactly how the Viscount's wound looked, like he knows for sure it was carved by an enemy hit squad. Even as he insists he's hoping it doesn't explode into a full-scale war, he can't stop his mind from spiraling into the what-if. A sharp smirk crawls onto his face, like he's already ready for the worst, even if things get that bad. He knows every last coin he's earned. The knowledge is about to skyrocket, but neither he nor Gayak fully grasps just how massive it's going to be. He's locked in, watching his money climb, but the real truth is, didn't this whole mess rip them apart and split their paths wide open, where one of them is sprinting straight into the path of becoming a total hero, while the other is charging straight down a path of pure. Hinata just stands there grinning like a maniac, while the gears of fate finally start grinding into motion. The gears of fate finally start turning for both of them, and as Hinata stands there, the city's non-stop roar crackles in the background, pulling you straight up to the towering World Tree Guild headquarters, where a massive crowd is packed in, waiting right at the gates. The entire room bursts into cheers, roaring in welcome as Hinata steps into Yggdrasil, while he just stands there stunned and still. While Lyra loudly bragged to everyone about how unbeatable a pro she was at brewing potions. She tells them it was him, he saved the Viscount and landed the guild a huge connection, so then the rest of the crew snaps into chaos, cheering him as an insane rookie and praising how rock-solid and reliable he looks. Hinata can't hide the emotion. He's never once been treated with this kind of respect before. But Lyra snaps him out of his spiral and promises, "Come on, I'll show you around the building." As they stroll, Hinata gushes about how amazing the place is, and Lyra snaps back that it's all brand new. Lyra hustles Hinata into this huge room and tells him, "This is our product warehouse." Hinata's jaw drops. He's never, ever seen this many different materials in his entire life. Lyra just smirks and says, "With that massive stock, you're set big time." Basically, that's exactly what they're best at, running the merchant guild like pros. Hinata stares at it all and can't stop thinking, What if I used every single piece of this stuff for my research? There's a real shot now. Maybe he can finally cure his sister's illness, but Lyra barges into his head like a thunderclap and demands he take over the guild's buying and purchasing. She orders him to look around and he panics and nods, heart racing, as he swears to himself he'll get it together. He swears to himself he'll give it everything he's got. As they stroll the aisles, Hinata suddenly freezes when his eyes catch something. He jabbed a finger at a gigantic crate spilling random bags everywhere, and demanded to know what the heck all of it was. Lyra shrugs it off and tells him straight up that it's their scrap pile. Lyra flat out tells them that the pile is nothing but trash, junk packed with worthless scraps that are good for nothing. Hinata jabs a finger at the wreckage and asks if Lyra minds him using his matinee to patch it all up. Then Lyra just stares, completely lost. Seeing her freak out, Hinata blurts out, "Are you saying no?" as she wildly flails her hands in a panic, like she can't stop the words from escaping. Lyra shrugs and tells him to go ahead, but she's dead sure it's just useless junk. Nothing in it is going to help, and then. But Hinata just flashes a smile and says, "I'm still gonna give it a shot," kicking things off like that, starting it off by. He snapped his material appraisal skill on, and a blazing flash of light slammed down onto the pile of scraps. Staring at the interface, he realizes that every single item he's in there stuck in the G rank condition. A total disaster of a rank, way uglier than the F rank stuff most people ever stumble into. So the next part. They'd been wrecked so bad that not even a dodgy merchant would dare try to pawn them off to someone else. Lyra starts to believe it's hopeless, but Hinata cuts that thought off instantly and tells her straight up she's wrong. Hinata kicks things off with his material boost. Then a glowing magic circle snaps into place as he starts the attack. The activation ritual for a medicinal herb, so far gone it's basically branded as total G-tier scrap. The herb blazes with sudden light, snaps upright, and just like that, it's officially leveled up to an E rank. Lyra is straight up snapping, screaming that it's unreal how these dead materials actually showed up and turned out perfect. Hinata keeps his cool and says they're running on the bare minimum that still works like, "Yeah, we started as trash, so don't expect more." But even so, he's buzzing, because he realizes that even a tiny profit beats just tossing this stuff away. While Lyra's still trying to make sense of it all, Hinata spots another box and blurts out, asking if he can use those. And he piled those materials right on top of it too. He snatches that fresh E-rank herb he just pulled out of the junk pile, and joins it with. He snatched a D-rank slime core and started gearing up, ready to test his skills and see what wild stuff he could craft next. He yells for his potion-making skill, kicks off the compounding, and the ingredients whip into a frenzy, swirling into a brand new magic circle. The whole process snaps shut. Then a glowing bottle materializes in front of Lyra and everything changes. He's through the roof because that junk herb actually turned into a D-rank recovery potion. Hinata breaks it down for everyone, explaining that the final product's rank usually mirrors the rarest material used in the mix. He lifts a finger, tells her it's just a small trick he learned, and puts on this act like it's no big deal at all. He proves it by dropping a rare slime core into a plain herb concoction, and boom, the potion skyrockets to the exact same high quality as the core itself. Lyra can't help but beam, saying she expected nothing less. But Hinata only lets out a shaky laugh and blurts that she just needs to remind her. Told her they were pretty broke, so he had to scramble up ideas to make it all work with what little they had. He scratches his head and admits the crazy part. He didn't learn all this random, pointless trivia on purpose. It all just happened because of how they've been living. Lyra freezes for a second, eyes locked on him as her mind races through every word he just spilled. She blurts out, "Why don't you use that skill to crank up the materials, resell them, and rake in a massive fortune?" A thought hit him so hard it felt crystal. Hinata's mind never even went there. She just blushed, mumbled that she assumed he'd be able to live comfortably. Riding through everything so smoothly, he didn't even need a guild backing him up. Hinata tells them, "These materials I activate don't last. If you don't turn them into potions right away, they droop, wilt, and..." Lyra nods along and it finally clicks. He's got to move at lightning speed because this power is only temporary, and they need to get back to where it all started. He lanes in and says herbs alone won't cut it. Real potions need slime cores too. But those only come from hunting monsters, so because Hinata isn't a fighter, he's never been able to grab those materials for himself, meaning he. So he blurts it out. "That's why I feel like potion making is the only thing I'm truly good for." He lets out an awkward little laugh, then admits it's exactly because his limits got in the way that he got booted from his last guild. Lyra slams the brakes on him and shifts into a serious stare, telling him straight to his face that he's completely wrong about who he is. Her cheeks flush, but she locks eyes with him and admits his skill is flat out incredible. And Hinata just freezes there, stunned out of his mind. Praise like this isn't something he's used to, so all he can manage is a soft thank you. As the sun sinks and night steals the sky, the two of them are left alone beneath the glittering stars. Back at the guild hall, everyone goes wild, because this massive win is finally theirs. Hinata plops right in the dead center of the crowd, while, as his brand new guildmates absolutely lose their minds. They're screaming like mad about how that rookie just pulled off something massive, and then, right in the middle of the panic, the talk turns to the guild's future is finally glowing like it's about to explode with hope. That one guy is already daydreaming about how massive their profit is going to be. Profits are about to go wild this month, and right now someone's yelling for Hinata to get a beer for the celebration. Hinata just sits there, staring off like something's weighing on her. Overwhelmed, he kept thinking, I don't even drink, so why did I only have juice this afternoon? And then, but he can't stop himself. He flashes a small smile because for the first time, things are finally turning around for him. He realizes he's already won everyone's trust, and with how everything's finally turning out, it looks like they can drop their guards, breathe easy, and get back to living their lives. Home at last, Hinata finally spills every detail of the whole story to his family. Mr. Hinajiku and his cousin Asego are totally stunned, and the moment they see it, both of them start blurting out how incredible he is for pulling it off. Hinajiku can barely contain his excitement, blurting out that helping out a high-ranking noble is the wildest, most incredible thing she's ever heard of. And the reward money the Viscount is putting on the table is a massive game changer. Now they finally don't have to worry about struggling for years to get the right medicine that actually works. Hinata beams at his family with a huge, honest grin, then practically bursts out that he's finally thrilled he can bring them good news for a change. He finally admits he's been piling stress on them non-stop, and that he's been leaning on Sago to carry everything at home while Hinajiku just listens with that calm, peaceful look. Hinata watches her, and all he can think is he needs to keep her smiling so she can bounce back to full health fast. While they're all stuck around the table, he steels himself. He's gotta work twice as hard as before. Next morning, the camera swings over to the gigantic medical guild building. And inside, the tension is already cracking the air as everything starts to. He stands in front of all the employees with his arms crossed, pulling the act like a total menace. He barked orders at everyone like a total jerk. He bursts out with the new plan, yelling it to the entire room like, from here on out, they're going to be forced to brew every single potion themselves. Because, since he thinks the job is a total joke anyway, he laughs it off, claiming it's literally just mixing things together. And there's no way it should be hard because if Hinata, one slowpoke, can pull off all that work by himself, then a whole room of experts should breeze through it no problem. One of the big guys sneers like it'll be easy, and Renat jumps in telling the guild master, we've totally got this. Gayak strutted into the room and bragged to everyone that firing Hinata had just saved the guild a fortune. And just like that, the whole staff kicks off, and it starts to. They're screaming like maniacs as Gayak pumps them up, telling them to keep their eyes on a huge payday coming this month. And everyone completely loses it. And one guy even screams, Gayak is the greatest guild master ever. They think he's the real deal, like a boss who truly gets it. And Gajek spots just how fired up they are, grinning because he's loving the energy because he's dead convinced that lifting everyone's spirits like this is what separates a real leader from the rest. Dr. Kira is losing his mind with cheers, convinced this guy's reactions are straight up unbelievable. He moves at a snail's pace when he's on the job. But yeah, he's absolutely the one turning this office into a whole different vibe right now. But then Kira finally snaps into the conversation, pointing out. Turns out Hinata's salary is shockingly tiny, and he blurts out, so will this even show up on our paychecks? Just tells him don't worry about a thing. Behind that smug grin, he's privately fuming, because he's been paying Hinata way less than he's been earning this whole time. Turns out the guild had a mountain of cash sitting there, right after paying everything, so Hinata just froze, staring at the records like, wait, where did all this money come from? Where it all started. Back at the office, Gayak swipes the blame off them and claims he only played nice because his old man was checking every number. Then bam, this month he's bragging that he's free to do whatever he wants, and the whole room erupts in cheers. When Gayak blazes, we're going straight to the warehouse right now. The whole staff jumps on board without hesitation. So they trail right behind him and bolt through the doors to inspect their supplies. Just staring at that door spikes Gayak's thoughts of Hinata, and suddenly he's boiling with rage. Then he storms inside and snaps, what the hell is going on with all? A doctor snatches a plant and rips into it, saying every single one of those materials is nothing but pure garbage. And the rest of the crew finally spots it. The supplies are soaked, ruined, and totally useless, and they caw. You won't believe how brutal it is, and it's got that. When Gajek starts unraveling, he screams that the trash potion maker took. They had one huge advantage. Nobody ever checked the warehouse so they could stop working and slack off. He's absolutely seething over it. Meanwhile, one of his guys, he's saying firing Hinata was absolutely the right move. The doctor rips into them, yelling that it doesn't matter how they mix those materials, because every single one of them is totally useless. Because the ingredients are wrecked, he snaps that they're stuck using their potion stash for the day. Gayak just stands there, eyes locked on the truth as he says, "Good news, I've still got some finished potions left." But you can tell he's on edge because he knows the clock is ticking and the shelves are about to go empty. And he orders Renat to slam in a massive order for brand new materials. Right now. Right in his face, he blurts back fast, then he fully agrees to get it done. She nods and says she gets it, then the scene slams straight into the next moment. He headed straight to the World Tree Guild's main entrance, and wow, everything looked way more professional now. Hinata's eyes go wide as he asks, "Wait, so my new job is just babysitting the potions?" Lyra grins and nods, saying it's finally time to craft a brand new line of potions made exclusively for their guild. Lyra locks eyes with him and blurts, "I want you to seize the role of running the entire project," which it totally throws Hinata off guard, because he can't believe the weight of all that responsibility is being handed to a guy who's only just started wondering if they've been hyping him up too much. Even so, he tells her, "I'll take the job if you're really okay with me doing it." Lyra's eyes light up, and she blurts out that everyone's counting on him as Hinata digs into the paperwork he just handed her, he tries to lock onto the details. But Lyra clocks the budget and breaks down exactly how many potion bottles they're planning to pump out for their very first run. Hinata glances at the numbers once and instantly snaps, demanding to know if he's reading the budget right. Lyra clocks his reaction and worry kicks in fast. She asks if the cash just isn't enough. Not to warn her, it's the exact opposite kind of trouble. And right now he's basically yelling, demanding to know if she's really serious about handing him that massive pile of money to use. Lyra just grins and shrugs it off, telling him it's all good, because the potions are going to explain it. They're about to unleash their most important product right around the corner. She adds that even beyond the business side she's got, "I'm honestly totally hooked on the kind of potions Hinata can whip up." Hinata stares at the staggering budget and fires a look at Lyra like, "You've gotta be kidding me." With this kind of money, he's absolutely sure he can. He can actually live up to her high expectations. Then later on, he drops into a seat. He leaned in with a grin and started brainstorming wild ideas for brand new potions. Lost in thought, thinking that, because if you're just gonna churn out something average or plain, why even bother? He knows that already, and he's about to prove it. He has to figure out how to make his products truly shine and stand out from everyone else. He closes his eyes and remembers the medical guild days. Back then, they drilled him on the basics like antidotes and nothing else. And anesthesia, plus a few simple auxiliary potions used during magical surgery, because he doesn't want to stop at just that. So he snatches up a handful of herbs and goes, "All right, let's lay the groundwork," crafting a plain potion first to build his foundation. He fires up his material boost skill, lines up a medicinal herb and a slime core for the process. And then he leans on his compounding skill and finishes it strong, capping it off with a solid, low-grade healing potion. With the base finally built, Hinata can't help it. She whips around, hunting for the next batch of ingredients to crank everything to the next level. Some higher-grade loot, like a jar packed with spider eyes and a freaky-looking witch carrot, and since he got everything set, then flipped his medicine compounding skill on and kicked off the process. Kick off the creation process, so it spits out a rank B minor mono potion that slams your mana back into place. Now, let's move on. Hinata chugs the last of both the health and mana potions, then stares at them like she's trying to figure out what that means. And now it's finally time, try blending the two together. Brewing usually speeds up when you've got the skills, but he can still go old school and do it by hand, especially since he knows his skills can't handle everything by themselves. He leans in and watches the mixture like a hawk, making sure every drop is exactly right. Then he realizes hitting the perfect heat level is the absolute hardest part. It really hits hard remembering how he got fired, because his old bosses believed that just anyone off the street could do this job. Hinata's got real confidence burning in his chest, because he knows he's actually incredible at this. And because for years he'd been obsessively mixing, brewing, and ordering every kind of thing for his little sister, he's the experienced kind, the one who's been through it all before. To pull off a win and finish a rank below the grade dual recovery potion, just then, he slips right up behind him and tells him, straight up, he's actually really good at it. Hinata snaps backward, completely stunned, and blurts out, "How long have I been standing here?" But Lyra glances back, smiles like she knows everything, and whispers that it's a secret. His heart's still hammering as he fights to stay calm, then he blurts out, "Do you need something?" so she shrugs and swears it's nothing, just checking in on how he's doing. Then she whips around, tells him, I'm heading back now, and leaves him with. Hinata was left frozen in place, completely stunned and clueless. He stood there staring as she drifted away, still humming to herself like nothing could touch her. Hinata just stands there utterly flustered, like her whole world caught fire. He can't believe it and keeps staring like, no way that's real. Then he wonders if Lyra was really the one checking in on him, but he shakes that thought out of his head in a blur, muttering that Lyra's got way too much on her plate for anything like that. He keeps shaking his head like, no way, because she'd never go out of her way. So don't make me worry about someone like him. So he tries to talk himself into believing she only came to make sure he does the job the right way. He jabs his fist in the air, then the reality hits. He's still a rookie in the guild, so it means he has to. He's got to step it up right now and go all in his absolute best, no excuses. Then a new thought snaps into place inside his head. His mind starts racing, wondering who's really out there living their lives because of his work. He finally clicks, turns out the big buyers aren't random people, it's the adventurers who go all in. These potions. And it finally clicks. There's no time to waste, they've got to down those things right in the middle of that brutal chaos. He glances at the supplies and the moment he does, he knows. His whole plan has to change. He grabs a bumpy fruit, rolls it in his hand, and mutters that everything would be way better if it was actually easy to eat. Especially since the drama was about to explode, and he could feel it coming like thunder in the dark. This thing is a sponge plum, one of those weird fruits people can't stop talking about and it's known for. Like a kitchen sponge, it drinks up every drop of liquid. He decides to go for it, grins, and swears he'll trim it down until it's exactly the perfect size. He's done it and wants the job finally finished. Then it hits him, if he drinks these pieces through that special potion he brewed earlier, it could flip his whole world upside down. He hypes himself up because this combo doesn't just heal him. It crushes the pain like a painkiller and slams the bleeding shut. And just like that, it hit him. Adventurers won't have to drag around those heavy bottles anymore. They can rip off a piece and chow it down with one hand. It's basically a quick, satisfying way to claw your way back into the fight. And seeing the final result hits different. Hinata is dead sure this brand new invention is about to blow up. Once everyone lays eyes on it, it's going to sell like crazy. He's convinced he has to track down someone fast, just to do a quick taste test. Test right now, because the second he turns around, he locks eyes with someone and realizes it's just the stock delivery guy standing there, staring in confusion like he walked into the wrong anime. Hinata tells the delivery guy, you're probably wrecked from all that heavy lifting, trust me, you're gonna love this. As he lifts the cup and hands it over, he blurts that this is a brand new kind of potion, and the delivery guy's jaw drops, so Hinata asks if he can spare a quick taste test, and the guy just stares at the snack like he's about to make a life-changing decision thinking. He thinks it looks downright delicious, then right on cue he blurts out that it honestly doesn't look like any potion he's ever seen, not even close. And that's when he decides to. So he shoved the doubt aside and went for it, yeah, anyway, and shoves a drenched bite of that fruit into his mouth to find out why everyone's losing their minds. He blurts it out of nowhere as a wild surge of energy crashes through him, and he's completely stunned. This brutal deep muscle pain is just vanishing out of nowhere, and he can't wrap his head around it because he was in agony a second ago. Hurting so bad it's tearing me apart. Making Hinata feel awesome about himself because the experiment actually worked, and he's so hyped he can't even finish his sentence. It works just like a potion would, bam, straight through the effects. And as he tells the guy the best part is that it tastes amazing too, a few people nearby start clocking the commotion. The delivery guy won't stop raving about the snack, insisting that its tiny bitterness and its soft, bouncy texture were made for each other. And nearby jabs a finger at the cup, screams it looks insane, and demands Hinata give them a taste too, while Hinata just stands there, frozen as the moment hits. They get boxed in as the crowd explodes, people shouting not fair, and suddenly everyone's scrambling to grab their own share, passing samples hand to hand like it's a race, and one guy gets so amped he throws his hands up, screaming, so when are we finally gonna be able to buy this stuff? Because he's convinced that grabbing a snack like this at work would totally erase every ounce of fatigue. Because right now, everyone is straight up losing it. And they start yelling at Hinata to make sure he tells them the very second it drops on sale. Hinata clenched his fist and realized this could be a massive win for sales, even as he kept yelling that they were 100% buying it. He can't believe how kind everyone's been, so he takes down their names right then and vows to keep them posted. But the next move is simple. He reveals the plan to Lyra. He hands her the paperwork and she just freezes, eyes locked on it, then asks, are you seriously for real? Utter disbelief, he honestly thinks he can pull this off with a budget this tiny. Hinata's eyes widen with worry and she blurts out, is something wrong? But Lyra fires back, shouting that it's the complete opposite. She's totally losing it over the numbers on the page, grilling him like, "Are you really sure it's okay to sell these things this cheap?" Lyra blurts out that potions are usually outrageously expensive for something this small, and Hinata just grins while scratching his head like, "Yeah, probably." And he's bragging his skills slash the production costs like crazy. Then he launches into the whole process, explaining how it works, and he says turns out the real potion dose in each snack is way lower than you think. It's basically just soaked straight into the sponge. That's why it didn't pack the punch. Only a few drops per piece do the trick. And Lyra just freezes, staring at the report like she can't believe what she's seeing, still totally stunned, and she claims the whole thing is just plain wrong, something her mind can't even process, and still But she finally clicks. This means they can sell the product at a price so brutal it'll flip the whole market upside down. Hinata jabs his finger upward and tells her, that's exactly it, and makes it crystal clear he wants to make sure. By slashing the price this low, they can reach a whole army of people, way past the usual adventure crowd. Hinata barrels ahead with his plan, laying out how these could even pass as a snack for regular workers. So they're basically able to sell to anyone, not just fancy high-end adventurers. So he's staring down a massive market, and Lyra scrambles to follow the logic, blurting, "Wait, so he just pours the potion straight into the fruit like that?" She squints and fires off a question. If she uses it like that, does it just dilute the potion's real healing power? Hinata shrugs it off. Those sponge plums come with their own built-in health perks, and somehow it all balances out. He tells her to chew it slow, so her body can drink in the potion like it was made for her, and Lyra's like, "Wait, that's actually genius." Lyra can't stop herself. She leans in and asks, "So, can I have a taste?" Hinata tells her point blank to stop waiting around and help herself. She grabs a drenched fruit stick, bites into it, and instantly finds out why everyone's raving. The second she tastes it, her whole face lights up. She blurts out that it's actually delicious, and she looks so utterly satisfied with the flavor. She grills him, asking if he's really certain, because it turns out this little snack was about to make them both insanely rich. Lyra's totally down, so Hinata jumps in. "Let's start selling the new snack right now," and he's finally breathing again. His plan actually worked. She actually tested it, and now she's obsessed with the product. They slap the guild's name on the treat, Fruit of the World tree, and honestly, it looks like a total winner. Meanwhile, at the medical guild, the air turns razor-sharp as someone storms in and screams for the guild master. One of the workers bursts in to tell Gayak, "Your materials are finally here." Gayak looks beat up, but he grins and tells them he's finally about to get back, trying to whip up potions, but then he's still seething, grumbling like Hinata handed him a total disaster to clean up. He boasts that his instructions will save the day and everything will be totally fine. Then he spots something weird and his confidence instantly cracks. He yanks over the worker who brought the crates, totally baffled by the delivery, because when he reaches into the crate, he pulls out nothing but dead, useless leaves. And he explodes, demanding to know what the heck this is supposed to be. Gayak snaps in rage, yelling about whether those materials are truly new, while the delivery guy just keeps insisting they are. The worker scrambles to save his own story, insisting the shipment happened exactly as he claims. "I just arrived like a second ago." But Gayak snaps his finger at the crates and demands to know why everything they hauled in turns out to be. The worker's eyes widen as they take in the wreckage. No denying it now, the guild master was right. Gayak keeps on ranting, words spilling out like fire that won't quit, saying this is just the same old trash they're already piling up in that warehouse. He's totally fed up, screaming that there's no point in wasting even one more second on a new order. Rage-burning, Gayak roars for Renat, and Renat, startled, springs up and snaps back with a quick answer. She faced her down, coldly reminding her she owned the order, and then demanded to know exactly what went wrong. Renault looks completely out of his depths. She claims she just sent the order the same exact way she always does. Gayak won't hear a word of it. He snaps at her to shut up, barking that she needs to stop hiding behind excuses for the mess. Gayak snaps and slams Renat across the face, barking that she's a worthless worm as she screams. He completely snaps, screaming that he hates people who hide behind excuses and try to trick him like a sucker. Fist clenched tight, he makes it crystal clear. No mercy at all, not even if his opponent is a girl. Kira bolts over and catches the sobbing Renee, snapping at the guildmaster that this is completely messed up, but Gayak snaps at her to shut up, slams her as trash, and even asks if she wants to get going. Kira doesn't fold. She dares him to swing all he wants and lets him know she's not backing down. She's done playing nice. She demands he stop punching women, and even while she's visibly shaken, she won't back down. Gayak freezes mid-breath, locks eyes with her for one stunned second, and you can practically see the confusion bubbling up from the whole situation. Suddenly, he bluntly asks Kira if she really has feelings for Ren, and Kira freezes mid-breath, her face burning red with a blush. Gayak snaps his gaze away for a split second, muttering to himself as the tension in the air in that room hangs heavy, like something terrible is about to snap. Gayak snatches the delivery guy by the shirt and screams that Renat is his woman. He doesn't think there's anything wrong with using her however he wants. The delivery guy's hands are trembling, but in his head, he's convinced Gayak is nothing but a spoiled brat who never learned how to grow up. He can't shake the feeling that this skinny guy is playing tough just to get under his skin. But something about the whole situation makes him hesitate. Gayak flashes that creepy, razor-sharp grin and tells them he's got one more terrifying reason for what he's doing. He tells the guy it's all good because Renat's actually a pervert who enjoys getting hit. Then he turns to her and demands she back him up. Renat stands there sobbing, hands over her face. Then she shoots back a quiet yes, like she's sealing the deal on his lies. That delivery guy grimaces in disgust, muttering under his breath as he stares at Renat like he can't believe what he's seeing. Gay X's eyes blaze behind his glasses as he tells the guy it's time to go even stricter with him. So he refused to back down. Gayak leans in close and straight up threatens to end his life if he ever dares to open his mouth like that again. The delivery guy bows deep and blurts out apologies to the guild master. But Gayak just shrugs off the whole thing, turns his back, and storms away. Gayak stands there with his arms crossed while the delivery guy bows so low, and Gayak waves it off. It's fine, just make sure you get it. Then he tears his gaze away and locks onto something brand new. Staring at those wilted, dead-looking plants, Gayak snaps his gaze up and demands answers. Do you want to know why the stuff they got is just trash? Then he goes and calls it that. He blares his voice to everyone around him. He's losing it fast. He starts screaming, demanding they bring him the merchant who sold them those garbage materials. A turban-wearing guy bursts in, carrying. With a huge grin, he introduces himself as Merida the merchant, acting like everything is totally fine. He grins like he's won something, even thanking them for sticking with him like their business is the best thing in the world to him. Right up to. Still the tension squeezed tighter. Gayak slumps at the table as Renaz pours his tea, then snaps at Merida to kill the small talk because he's absolutely furious. So Merida slides into the seat across from him and fires off. Was there really something wrong with what I brought? Gayak flashes an annoyed glare and snaps at the guy to just look at what's right behind him. He jabs his finger straight at the bins of dead, dried leaves and declares that these are the materials that just rolled in today. Merida just grips his teacup and glances over, calm as ever, silently checking that the items are exactly the right ones. Gayak's jaw tightens as he glares at the merchant, snapping whether he's really trying to mess with him. And he won't stop. He keeps pushing, demanding answers about why they just dumped this mountain of trash materials on their doorstep. Merida stares him down, repeats his last words, then snaps that the order is for exactly 2,000 F-rank herbs. Gayak screams at the top of his lungs, demanding to know who would even dare order something like this. But Merida just says it straight to his face. She's pointing right at him because he's the one who. The guildmaster just stands there utterly clueless, so Merida steps up and reminds him. He barged in again, insisting the delivery was exactly what they ordered. Gayak snaps and slams his fist into the table, screaming at the top of his lungs, dreaming the merchant would finally stop feeding him lies to his face. But Merida doesn't even blink. She just holds up a sheet of paper and tells him straight up to actually read the order form. He points out that, thanks to their very first contract, the Merchant Guild is only allowed to sell them F-rank materials. And then it just cuts off with the next part. And as Gayak stares at the document, sweat explodes across his face. He can't wrap his head around the words staring back at him. As he read the fine print, his hands started to shake. Because the budget was so brutally low, they had to slap together junk just to hit the required order size. Gayak snaps his eyes to the paper, completely blindsided, like his world just tilted. Shock hit him hard. He just can't stop staring at that word budget coming right back at him. Merida wastes no time. She tells him point blank that the potion maker got a laughably small budget, and that's what Hinata promised, right before he tossed in the guild's first ever order. Gayak clenches his teeth, locked in worry as he wonders. So why would someone like Hinata bend over backward to do something like this? He screams that he'll never forgive that kid, especially when the stuff they delivered is basically trash and it ended up being totally worthless to them. Merida tells them straight up that Hinata had to get creative and lean on his skills to pull it off. Kayak's body seizes in shock when he realizes he's never once heard a single thing about Hinata having. While Merida plays it cool, acting like she's genuinely shocked, the merchant reclines and casually lets slip that Hinata can actually pull off decent potions even when it's just junk. He tells everyone the whole story is straight up mind-blowing, and it instantly sparks insane jealousy in him, because that kind of talent feels completely out of reach. Gayak is left shaking, his mind spiraling as he tries to wrap his head around the wild truth. Hinata really could pull off something like that. Merida lays it out clear. If the guild hands Hinata those exact materials, he'll sort the whole mess. Then she glares and asks if the kid's just gonna disappear for the day. Gayak totally snaps and screams that he fired Hinata. So yeah, Hinata's out for good. While Merida just stands there frozen in shock, she finally blurted to Gayak that he really messed up big time. Jax erupts, screaming at him to shut up, calling him an idiot to his face. Then he jabs a finger at the junk and declares he's bringing it back. Merida freezes in total shock at the outburst, barely even managing to find his. He tells Gayak there's no way he's taking it back, especially not after Gayak's blunder started this whole mess. Gayak stands frozen in place, trembling with pure rage. His face twists into pure chaos as he desperately scrambles to stay together. He can't believe the nerve of that guy, so he stares baffled like, what the hell is wrong with this merchant? The guy is absolutely fuming. He keeps ranting nonstop about how every single thing in this situation is driving him crazy. Gayak is totally losing control. He jabs his finger in the air and screams that he'll kill the guy, then snaps at the merchant not to dare talk back. Standing there trembling with pure fury, convinced that every single thing going wrong right now is Hinata's fault. So he screams at Kira to toss the merchant out of the building, right now. Right now Gayak keeps muttering curse words under his breath, while Kira panics tries to do what he's told, but Merida refuses to go quietly. He fires back at the guild master, screaming who the hell he thinks he is to treat people like this. The merchant slams the door behind him and roars that he's officially finished with the guild. He's got 0 herbs left to sell. Gayak just slides his glasses into place, visibly disgusted, and growls that it's trashy to even deal with scum like that. He tries to pretend he's the one who's calling the partnership off, but deep down he knows the whole thing was an absolute disaster. That pushes Renis to step forward and bow her head. She apologizes for the mess, saying she should have double-checked the order. Gayak doesn't hold back for a second. She slams her with insults and calls her incompetent to her face, and she just swallows it. He promised he'd be way more careful from now on, no more reckless moves, especially as the game. Gayak keeps staring off like he's stuck in a thought, then snaps out of it and decides it's time to move on to whatever's next. He stared down his plate for the day. They just stare at the crates of leaves like, what am I even supposed to do with all this? Back at the guild building, Hinata walks in and suddenly freezes, because something feels wildly wrong. He whips his head around, panicked, asking where Lyra vanished to because he can't spot her anywhere, even though they were meant to sit down and talk about that potion together. A bespectacled clerk blocks his path, points down the hall and blurts that Lyra is actually in the reception room. Hinata jolts at the news, until the guy lands in and explains why she's there. She's trapped right now in a stuffy business meeting, with a man staring at her from across the table. Lyra is going all in, pitching hard as she shows off the fruit. She even declares it the fruit of the world tree. And she even lifts up a jar of those fancy sticks, swearing this is about to become their brand new flagship product. The businessman rubs his chin, grinding through every word she just hit him with. That businessman isn't giving Lyra an inch. He snaps that no one's going to believe a brand new potion from a brand new guild. But Lyra dug in her heels, insisting the quality of the product would speak for itself. It's obvious the negotiations have slammed into a brick wall, and Hinata can only watch, standing by as that guy just sits there, refusing to move. Lyra stays totally unfazed until she spots Hinata and waves him over like, come sit with us. She tells him it's because you're the one who made it. He'll convince that guy with way more ease. Nada isn't sure he even belongs in a meeting that big, but he steps up anyway. The businessman just shrugs it off with a laugh like it's nothing. Off he snapped, demanding to know what some low-level potion maker asterisk thinks asterisk he's doing here. They all act like this is a serious, no-nonsense meeting, but Hinata refuses to back down. Instead, he steps up, introduces himself, and promises he's about to flex, showing you exactly what he can do. With a fierce stare, he braces himself to prove, right here in this room, that he's got the skills everyone can't deny. Hinata plants a hand on his chest and tells him loud and proud, I brewed that potion myself, so I'd be the one who has to do it. He leaned in and laid out every last detail of the product, then stepped forward and grabbed the lid. The businessman grunts and mutters that at least Hinata's got manners, decent ones somehow. With his arms crossed, he leans back and finally proves he'll actually hear the pitch. Hinata kicks it off by leaning in and asking that man what he thinks about the deal. Reaching out his hand, he declared that if the man wanted to buy these exact, brand new potions, he'll also toss in the same number of regular, conventional potions for free as part of the. The businessman is absolutely reeling from the offer, and the kid is basically pitching a full-on mass. A wild buy one get one special hits, and the deal feels absolutely massive. The man straight up can't believe his ears, staring at Hinata like, Are you really saying you'd make a deal like that? Leaning in close, I asked him straight up if he was messing with me, because the whole deal sounded way too good to be real. Hinata locks eyes with him and tells him straight up, the deal is absolutely within reach. Spelling out the usual potion. Emotions get pulled from garbage everyone tosses, so mass-producing them costs basically nothing, and that's when it clicks. It hits the man like a sudden punch, leaving him totally off balance. The businessman fumbles his own words, then blurts out, how in the world did Hinata even crack a process like that? Hinata stays ice cold and tells him the real secret is in his exact skill set, but he can't really spill the details. Because it's a trade secret, he's got to cut the guy loose before it leaks. He rubbed his chin like the answer was hiding there, and then he snapped, wait, I get it now, I can see what I couldn't before, and it's… Nada isn't some run-of-the-mill potion maker. He's something way more dangerous and legendary. And he finally admits he's probably gotta undo everything he said before they even started to. Hinata doesn't let it go to his head. He just shrugs and says the guild is crazy good. A ridiculously well-stocked inventory ready to go. A spark flashes in his eyes, like he's about to slam the sale shut and end this whole chapter. As the businessman sits there mulling it over, you press him one last time. Come on, just try the offer. That businessman tells him straight up. His guild master is insanely strict, like no excuses strict, and he's panicking over what people will say if they stock a potion nobody can explain, and it crashes. Hinata drops a game-changing idea. Tell everyone to sign a timed exclusivity deal with, which makes the guy blurt the idea back again as his mind scrambles to catch up. He'll hand these products to their guild for the first half of the deal, arguing it'll make them stand out from the crowd. From other shops, then he slams the pedal harder, driving their sales through the roof. The guy finally comes around and starts admitting that those terms might even win over his strict boss. Hinata starts to doubt himself. Did he go too far, juggling all these calls by himself? But Lyra shoots him a sly wink from the side, basically telling him, everything's looking incredible, and then the businessman finally snaps out of it. He blurts, I'm in, and demands they lock it down with a contract. The businessman's jaw drops in impressed shock, telling Hinata that sure, his potion skills are amazing, but the real twist is he's got a knack for business too. But Hinata just shrugs it off with a laugh, telling him, I'm only being modest. You're just so damn easy to talk to. The guy bursts into laughter and tells Hinata she's got a real gift for words. Then right after that, it all leads to, because he just tossed out a wild surprise offer. He leaned in and asked Hinata if he'd join his guild. Hinata doesn't think twice. She flashes a friendly laugh and tells him he's going. He's gonna have to turn that one down. He's still got a mountain of goals in his sights. One of them is making it to his current guild. The businessman grabs his clipboard and starts scribbling, nodding like he totally understands, like there's nothing else he can do about it. Then he strides for the door, waves Hinata goodbye and tells him, if you ever find yourself drowning trying to make ends meet, come find me. Once the guy finally disappears, Lyra drops her guard and admits that she stared at her, not really surprised, more like, what are you doing here? She's standing there with stars in her eyes, totally stunned by everything he just pulled off. Lyra just stands there, eyes sparkling like she's staring into the night sky, and tells Hinata she can't believe he's got real, natural talent for business. Hinata just lets out a laugh and scratches the back of his head, playing it cool like he's totally unbothered. He lets it slip that he didn't just figure it out. He learned the ropes the hard way, hustling with merchants while he was still stuck at his old guild. She stares him down and tells him that hearing him say it is a huge relief. She drops her gaze, cheeks warming as she admits she's seriously embarrassed, because even now she has no clue how to run a guild, not even a single thing. But Hinata flashes her a gentle smile and shuts the lie down, telling her, no, that's not true. Before Lyra can even get a word out, Hinata shoots her hand up, pats her head non-stop, and tells her she's absolutely crushing it. He keeps his hand there as he leans in and reassures her, making it crystal clear that as guild master, she's nailing every single duty perfectly. Lyra completely shuts down. Her face erupts in a bright red blush as she barely squeezes out a stammer. Hinata's name hit the room, and everyone went totally silent in shock. Hinata freezes, yanks his hand back fast, and shoots her an awkward glance as he blurts, I'm sorry for that sudden move. He shifts on his feet, bluffs it away like, I'm just used to patting my little sister's head. But you can tell it's not a choice anymore, it's a full-on habit. Hinata instantly panics, cheeks burning, and realizes he totally messed up, admitting he'd been insanely disrespectful to the guild master just now. But Lyra starts flailing her hands, insisting to him that it's nothing like that. And she got blindsided in the worst possible moment. She stands frozen, cheeks blazing red, scrambling for the right words while embarrassment crushes her from head to toe. With a soft, quiet voice, she confesses that being treated like that actually made her happy, and it totally scrambles Hinata, leaving her utterly confused. Lyra spirals into panic, screams it's nothing, like it'll fix everything, and Hinata just stands there watching her flail, utterly confused at why she's acting like this is the best thing ever. Once the awkward tension finally eases up, Hinata lunges to put everything back on track. He mumbled his apology, already locking in those business rules without once asking her first. But Lyra shrugs it off, flashes him a bright grin and tells him, "Don't worry, this is totally fine." She reminds him, loud and clear, every prophet that ever showed up only exists because he busted his ass. So she steels herself, drops the weight of that moment, and moves straight to the next task they've got to deal with. Lyra beams as she declares, "A brand new guild will never take flight unless we sell top-tier gear and earn real trust." She's practically vibrating with excitement, insisting the only thing that matters right now is getting their name stamped on the public's mind. Watching her Hinata is honestly pretty wild. Honestly, he's pretty blown away, and he catches himself thinking, damn, Lyra really puts serious thought into every part of this business. That's when it hits him, running a guild master's life isn't some easy gig at all. Which drags everything back again somehow. Giyek was an absolute nightmare, and the memories he left behind are brutal. So Hinata wastes no time. She decides it's smarter to just wipe that guy from her mind completely. Right as they're talking, Hinata's eyes flare with sudden realization, like the answer just slapped him in the face. Lyra blurts, "What?" because he just drops a massive lightbulb moment, so sudden it knocks her completely off guard. He starts pointing at the fruit hanging from the world tree, then tells everyone exactly how it should be. He plans to save it for something special, and then he tosses out the idea of creating a version of their product that actually acts. Turns out there's straight-up alcohol in it. Lyra's face lights up instantly, and she blurts out the idea again, totally, undeniably convinced. Just the thought of an alcoholic drink sent a craving roaring through him. Lyra through the roof, she's slapping her hands together and shouting. Saying Hinata's idea feels like it's going to hit everyone's heart and make them all go, "I need this." She calls it out, if you push things too far, it all goes wrong. Two different versions will pull in everyone, so she leans in and tells Hinata, "You handle the details, I'm out." She's honestly stunned. How on earth could he even cook up a plan that brutal on the spot? Turns out Hinata's tiny suggestion flipped everything. One that would eventually turn the guild into an absolute goldmine. Back at the old medical guild, things are falling apart fast. Then someone yells, "Gay." Gayek is completely frazzled, stabbing a finger at piles of trash crates and snapping at his staff to deal with that towering mountain of junk. At this point, he's in full panic mode, begging them like their survival depends on it. Because it does. "I need to find anyone who will take this stuff off my hands, just so I can finally get rid of it." They're scrambling in panic, fighting for their lives and blurting to the boss that it's impossible. So there's literally no choice left. And just burn it all to the ground. Kira's just frozen on the spot with his hands up, completely slammed by the moment. Completely overwhelmed and totally lost in the chaos. Gayek is totally losing it, ranting and raving about how useless people love declaring defeat. Like everything is impossible the second they hear the idea. He's so tempted to just grab the trash and toss it himself until it hits him. He realizes he's done messing around. He snaps at Kira to hunt down a real merchant who actually sells top-tier ingredients. And Kira panics, bolts off, and Gayek tries to lock down his nerves, telling himself it's all fine because he can still throw money at the problem and buy his way out of this mess. Just a little later, Kira storms back looking wrecked, then drops a new name, Norwia the merchant. He strides in and blurts out, "Are you the guild master, Giyek?" Gayek slaps on a fake smile, tells the guy to take a seat, and ushers him in like they're about to have a friendly talk. A merchant plops down and blurts out that he heard the guild is hunting potion ingredients, and he's about to dive, lading. He doesn't stop there, he even starts the gay act to prove it, and then cuts himself off like he's got to say the real thing, "I need real." Merida hears him out and says, "Stop settling for that low-rent junk. If you're hunting for something better, go check out a few C-rank items." For a major jump in quality. Gayek acts like he's doing the guy a favor, huffs a little, then shrugs and says, "Guess it's fine to talk." But you can tell the budget is crushing him. He's stuck doing the math, knowing he can't shell out for A or B-ranked gear in bulk. Using D or E-rank ingredients is too cheap. Those potions will turn to trash and fail again and again. So he sets out to carve out a middle ground and finally patch the guild's supply crisis. Merida lays it out straight. Hand him 2,000 C-rank herbs for 85,000 gold, and Gayek's jaw won't even be able to process that kind of price. He freaked out on the spot, screaming that it was insane for just some herbs to be priced that high. Merida stared at him like he'd lost his mind, insisting that from her point of view, that's the normal price everyone pays. Gayek is absolutely seething, screaming that he has never paid more. He forked over 10,000 gold just to stock up on supplies before, and he storms in demanding the merchant match his price. That price, and telling him to stop acting so damn unreasonable about the whole thing. The merchant just stares at him and demands like, Was that 10,000 gold price for real? Actually, for the bottom tier F rank herbs, too bad. The merchant won't move an inch on the price, straight up telling Gayak he can't sell that kind of material for less, and that pushes Gayak off the edge. He erupts into screams, demanding to know why a basic potion ingredient. Are we even gonna price those things high in the first place? He keeps ranting that they're just weeds, and swears that shelling out that much will straight up crush the entire medical guild. Then he tries to flex his status, yelling that he's a noble and a doctor, so you'd better be grateful he's even bothering to talk to a lowly merchant. The merchant folds his arms and stares him down like he's done with this mess, trying to snap Gajek into using some plain common sense for once. But he snaps that the real problem isn't anything else. It's exactly how many potions. These doctors keep burning through it non-stop. As they push through their dwindling supplies, he fires back so fast that Gajek realizes, yep, this is gonna burn through a fortune. And it hits him hard. His shop isn't some charity, it's a business, and he's here to run it like everyone else. Gayak is burning with rage, grinding his teeth as he snaps at the merchant that he's impossible to reason with. The merchant leans in and blurts out that gay act. Gajek treated Merida like she was trash, but the second it mattered, he just shrugged it off and snapped that she was an obnoxious girl. The merchant in the turban has totally lost it, ranting that he can't believe Gajek tried to rope him into buying absolute garbage materials. And Gayak just waves him off, warning the person right there to watch their back, because this dude is ready to scam them fast. But the merchant snaps back on the spot, saying Gayak is the real obnoxious one. Gayak freezes, mouth hanging open, and then rage detonates in him as he snaps, demanding to know who that lowly merchant thinks he is to dare speak to a noble like that. Then drops a truth bomb on Gayak, saying his awful reputation has already leaked through the entire merchant community. So he thrusts a finger straight into Gayak's face and barks that nobody will ever do business with him. Getting back into business with him again. The merchant keeps pressing forward, spitting that the noble's corrupt and doesn't deserve even a single ounce of respect. Then he won't let up and he screams that he'll never lay eyes on Gayak's face again, ever. Gayak's hands start trembling as he scrambles for something, anything to say back, but he snaps and screams at the man to shut up, his face twisted into pure fury as he just stands there fuming and teeth clenched, ranting about how he hates every single one of those merchants. Gayak shrieks at Merida to get out, then starts hurling anything he can get his hands on, so the merchant has to duck as a bottle comes flying while he sprints away. Gayak's wheezing after the outburst, and Kira rushes over to ask if he's okay, but he lashes out and says, "Do I look fine?" That snap sends Ranef spiraling into panic and she blurts out apologies. Gayak goes off on a furious rant about how they need more materials no matter what just happened, and Kira cuts in with an idea. Just call up a different merchant to get things moving then. Now it looks like she's seconds from snapping. She's saying there isn't a single merchant left who will lift a finger for their guild, and she's cut herself off mid-sentence. Stressed out, pacing in circles, wondering how. Then she tells Gayak to his face that the reason they're here is his own habit of chasing everyone off. So Gayak snaps, gets offended in a heartbeat, and demands if she's really trying to pin this whole mess on him. Rage is boiling in his chest as he seethes to himself, convinced everyone's just trying to trap him and squeeze him into a corner. Gayak freezes with that trembling, intense stare, stuck in disbelief. Why is everything crumbling? Then it hits him, everything goes back to the moment things first started spiraling, and he's replaying Hinata in his head, the guy who used to run all their potion making, and he can't shake the thought. Did the guild's ugly downward spiral start the exact second he tossed that kid out? But he slams the thought shut instantly, convincing himself there's no way that could be the reason. Gayak is still raging, screaming at the top of his lungs that the guild's doing just fine without a trashy piece like Hinata. Now he's desperate, spitting orders at his staff to grab any asterisk merchant they can find, even if it's a random nobody, as long as they bring back materials. He snaps into full villain mode, telling them to haul someone in through the underground routes if they must. Then the staffer bolts off in a panic sprint, like the floor just dropped out from under him. A full-on wave of panic crashed in. Then he just freezes there, eyes locked with this totally creepy stare, and starts convincing himself over and over that this is the right move. He starts realizing the city's got more than legit merchants selling goods, and he can't stop thinking about who's really behind it. And he can't forget what people told him, that plenty of doctors are secretly tied to the underworld, trading in cold, shady deals like organ trafficking and human trafficking. In his head, he hears those cruel words, "You're not a real doctor until you've dipped your toes into the dark side of the business." And that thought drags him straight into what comes next, which leads to him bursting into this weird, shaky laugh that keeps spiraling louder and creepier as he starts. He's standing there alone, locked in silence. He looks totally unhinged, gripping his collar like it's the last thing holding him together, convinced that crossing this line is finally going. He finally hit the level of a first-class doctor, fully convinced that this spiraling mess was his shortcut straight to the top. Back at the medical guild, a staff member yells "Guild Master" and calls out for him right away so he'll come. Finally gets him the merchant he demanded, a man named Mr. Dakwa. Gayak stands there with his arms crossed, praying this guy isn't another letdown, while Dakwa slides in with a shady smirk and tells him it's a pleasure to meet the man in charge. The merchant doesn't waste a second. He launches straight into how he heard Gayak. They got slapped with a blacklist by every real merchant around. That's when Gayak snaps, barks, "Shut up, just tell me if you're selling." Deciding whether to call the herbs or not. Dakwa stays ice calm, smiles at the panicked guild master, and tells him he'll sell him every last bit he needs. So Gayak's face lights up. He looks absolutely thrilled. He's buzzing, finally convinced he's caught a break in this nightmare. He can't stop thinking about how those black market crews slip through secret routes and win with ruthless, dirty tricks. He's fully sure he's about to score a massive discount. He asks the price, then abruptly freezes, like his mind just hit pause for a beat. Gajek doesn't even hesitate. He declares he'll grab 2,000 C-rank medicinal herbs right then and there, which gets Dak grinning as he signs on to the deal, until he suddenly slams them with the cost. Dakwa drops a jaw-dropping offer, 10,000 gold, and Gayak is left totally stunned by that insane price tag. Gayak snaps and screams that the price is way higher than anyone ever pays, blasting the black market merchant with, "How is this even so expensive?" while Daca just stands there like he's frozen in place. Dakwa shrugs it off and tells him, "If you've got an issue, then take it up with the regular merchants," which makes Gayak panic, convinced that the guy might actually shut him down and refuse to sell completely. He's standing there sweating buckets, teeth clenched so tight he can barely breathe, realizing he's got absolutely zero. He had zero leverage in this deal. Gayak snaps, shouting that the merchant is only exploiting them, but Dakwa just shrugs it off, says he doesn't care at all, and tells Gayak to walk away if he's so unhappy. She leans in and whispers to the guild master that they've got to buy the supplies even if it costs a fortune, or their potions will never be made, and Gayak snaps at her to shut up, because yeah, he already knows. Dakwa just chuckles at the whole mess and asks, "So you're actually buying it, or are you just not leaving?" He had no choice but to scream that he'd do it. He jabs a finger in the air and screams that Dakwa's ridiculous price isn't happening. He'll make sure of it. The merchant beams and thanks him for the business, but Gayak just stands there, visibly drowning in stress. Gayak yanks at his glasses and steadies his gaze, but the strain shows. He looks completely wiped out from everything that just happened. Meanwhile, Hinata hauls a massive crate of potions outside, mind racing with the sick feeling that everything lately has been a total nightmare. Until, as he strolls, Lyra spots a mustached guy nearby and scrambles to remember where she's seen him before. She clocks Merchant Jurian, the very same dude who just bought Hinata's potions not long ago. Jurian leans in, takes a quick look around, and shoots off a casual greeting like it's nothing. Hinata spots him, and he waves him in like he's got something urgent to say. Jurian drops the bombshell. Hinata's potions are an insane hit, and suddenly every shop in town is clawing to get in on the action. And before Hinata can even brace herself, that statement hits like a punch, so he blurts out, "Is that really true?" and admits he's just over the moon to hear it. Drian bursts into laughter and says, "Since we've got the exclusive rights, I'm gonna have a blast selling them and making everyone else eat jealousy. All thanks to Hinata's relentless grind." They both crack up over the win, and Hinata turns to him and thanks him for everything as the merchant gives one last wave and hurries back toward the city. Hinata and Lyra are left standing there, staring after him. Lyra whirls around, eyes blazing with pure excitement, and she blurts it out loud like, "No way, this is actually happening." She's shining with excitement as she brags that they've finally started making real profit. And then her voice turns sharp for a beat. She tells Hinata that because of him, the guild finally gets to breathe, before she lowers her head, thanking him like it means everything. Hinata panics at how bold he's being, and blurts that it's him who should be thanking her for all the help. Hinata shoots a look at Lyra and tells her, "If I hadn't bumped into you that day, I don't know what would have happened to me." He has no clue what might have happened to him, and that's what makes everything so scary. And that's when he grins and tells her she's his soulmate. Lyra completely snaps, stammering the word over and over. As she starts blushing, tapping her fingers in a jittery rhythm, she admits, way too nervously, that it just might be true. She clears her throat like she's about to play it cool, then tells Hinata she's got a present for him, and then the guild drops the news. They're handing him his own research budget for brewing. Hinata just freezes in place. They're completely speechless, staring at her like, "Are you sure you can really do that for him?" Lyra tells him, "Use whatever you find in the storehouse, any materials you want." And she tells him to go for it, test his hand at brewing all kinds of wild new potions. The storehouse is colossal, jam-packed with every single thing he could ever need. Hinata realizes that with the fresh budget and all these new materials, he can finally brew top-tier potions. And then it slams into him. His biggest dream is really happening, and the emotion hits so hard you can almost see it in his eyes when Lyra finally speaks up, she hits him with the truth. This isn't only his dream, his sister is in this too. She admits she's been thinking that one more round of research could finally bring them within reach of actually curing Hinajuku's sickness. Hinata's stunned. He stares at Lyra and blurts that he can't believe she'd go through all of this trouble just for him. Lyra just grins, presses a heart to her own chest, and tells Hinata he's already special. And the most important person in her life. She doesn't stop there either, because she then continues to say that his sister Hinajuku is someone super precious to her now, and the second she says all of that, it makes an electric pause in the air. Hinata's face flared bright red as she just stood there, stunned, because the truth hit her hard. She cared that much. Lyra blurts precious again and again under her breath, completely stunned by the huge truth she just let slip. She jerks her hands up and starts wild flailing like she's caught in a sudden, unstoppable panic, right in the middle of a full-blown panic, screaming that she has no hidden motives at all, and all she can do is gush that his sister is an amazing person. She's so flustered. She even stops mid-thought and wonders what she's doing. Why is she saying this at all? Hinata's panicking hits full blast as she flails her hands and screams that it's totally. He leans in and tells her, "Don't worry, I've got no wrong ideas about you. I know my place and I'm sticking to it." Because every time doubt creeps in, he slams it down and tells himself, Lyra runs the show, Lyra leads the whole guild. In his mind, he's sure she only sees him as some important worker. And that's the whole story, nothing more. Lyra snaps back to the moment and claps her hands, grinning as she tells him she's got one last present for him. She makes it crystal clear that his work for the day is a F. It's finally over right now, officially done. And then orders him to bail early for once, get some sleep, leaving Hinata standing there like, wait, what? Lyra pauses for a beat, then tells Hinata he can have 3 full days off, like, completely. Left the guy utterly stunned, then he blurts, "Are you really sure it's okay?" And she shoots back, "Of course it is." She flashes him a wink, tells him he always pushes himself too far, and that's the reason he's F***G. Finally, the moment was here. He had to drop everything and go soak up some real time with his little sister. Hinata practically bows to the floor, thanking her from the heart for everything she's done, and then. But Lyra just claps and says, straight to his face, that she's the one who should be thanking him. It slams into him that he truly is an amazing person. And then his mind starts racing with the thought that I can't believe how one better boss flipped his entire life upside down. So he drops everything, kicks back with his family, heads back inside, and yells, "I'm home." Asego catches him off guard, glancing up and asking why he's back so early. Hinata slips through the door and shouts that he's finally home, but Asego stares at him like something off, demanding to know if he gets fired again, just like that, then snaps completely, flailing his hands around as he shouts at her. No, it's not like that at all. Explaining that he'd only grabbed a little time off. Then, right in that moment, a gentle voice calls his name and then his little sister, Hinajuk, shows up in her pajamas just to hit him with a welcome home. Hinata beams, says he's back, but she looks seriously drained. He stumbles forward and finally catches her in time, then blurts out a quick little whoop as he steadies her in his arms. He leaned in close and gently reminded her she really had to stay in bed and rest. Hinajuku just grins and says she only slipped outside to snag a hug, to wrap his arms around her as her big brother, which sets off Hinata drops a cheeky sag-out teaser for her like, "You're just a baby," then straight up tells her to be a good girl and crawl right back into sleep. Hinajuku teases him, purring that she knows her big brother will take care of her, and Hinata just lets out a weary sigh, right on. Saying he understands, he bends down and scoops her up. Then he carries her back toward the bed. But he pauses for one heartbeat, suddenly feeling something off. His eyes blow wide and he snaps his gaze down at her, like he's just realized what's happening because it's like she's not even real. He stares at her and feels how weightless she is in his arms, like her presence should hit harder. He couldn't help thinking that it was just almost like, he's got a doll or something way darker. Then he drops her. He leans in, eases a tray into her hands, and tells her to finish her. Then grab some tea and crash into sleep again. She flashes him a sweet smile and agrees on the spot. But Hinata can't shake that crushing thought, like the whole world suddenly made her feel tiny. He watches her take a sip, and his mind races with the thought of that. Tea is supposed to be medicine, and then it turns out he's pulled out every trick he knows, whipping up drink after drink, hunting the perfect recipe to make her feel truly special. The strongest potions and, while he whips up the most nutritious meals he can find, but nothing he cooks even nudges her toward getting better. Hinata keeps his hand on his sister's head, telling himself that acting beats freezing, Then he tugs the covers up and whispers that she can finally drop her guard and rest easy. Hinajiku softly strokes her head, and just like that, her eyes flutter closed as she drifts into sleep. Hinata locks eyes with her and that serious look hardens his resolve. He vows to save her, come hell or high water. He strides over to the table where Asego asks if she's asleep, and he leans in to confirm she's finally knocked out cold. As they start digging into their food, he blurts out that the research budget got approved. Then his eyes light up, because now he can finally start cooking up the medicine. Asaga's face lights up with relief as she tells him, "That's really great news to hear." Hinata chews with that unshakable fire in his eyes, muttering again as a sharp swear slips out. He's going to rescue his sister no matter what. He glances at Sago, tells her he knows it's been brutal for her too, then begs her to hang on just a little longer. Asego just stares at him with a worried look, warning him not to push himself so damn hard. Asego stretches a hand toward the table as they wrap up their meal. She leans in, rests her hand on Hinata's head and tells him, "You've already pushed yourself enough." She keeps stroking his hair, murmuring that he's already done more than enough. Then Hinata just. He gapes into nothing, and this weird fog starts creeping over his mind. That warm soup hits his stomach and instantly lulls him into heavy, unstoppable sleepiness. Then, his eyes start to droop, because the moment he realizes it, he has to get to bed right now. Everything starts slipping out of focus. Then that sagged house-faced figure melts into a gentle, glowing light while he finally gets wiped out, crashes face first onto the dinner table and passes out cold. Asego gazes down at him, soft smile in place, and tells him it's okay for now. Then she leaves. She shuts the door on the two of them and urges him to rest easy in the quiet room. Asaga stares at her brother as he sleeps at the table, whispers his name under her breath. While back to the medical guild building he goes, because trouble's already brewing and things are about to get messy. Gayak stands there with his arms crossed, grumbling that they finally scored the potion ingredients, even if they paid an insane price for them. He glares over at those crates of trashy herbs thinking, what am I even supposed to do with all this junk? So he scrambles to figure out how to use the materials for real, not just let them sit there and rot. Renaz pushes the idea to call in straight away. In Zakog, one of the staffers bolts off at full speed to find him right away. Zakog, looking jittery as hell, shows up at the door then blurts out to Gayek, "Why'd you call me?" Gayek's actually thrilled to see him, turns out they're like brothers, and Zakog is running another doctor's guild so Gayek. But Gayek barks at him to sit, and you can see the fear flashing in his eyes, because Gayek used to beat him up all the time. As soon as Zakog finally settles in, Gayek shoots him a creepy grin and whispers that today, he's got a special present just for him. Gayek blurts out that Zakog's guild is broke as hell, so they're probably scrambling just to get materials, and Zakog has. He's gotta admit straight up he's right. Gayek leans in like he's seeing a ghost, eyes blazing as he tells him that turns out his own guild's pantry has way more ingredients than they could ever need. He lifts a finger and tells Zakog, since they've got all that extra, he's ready to drop some of it at a real steal. Zakog's eyes snap wide with shock, and he just can't believe what and demands to know if Gajak's actually dead serious about all this. As Zakog keeps raving about how grateful he is for the help, Gayek can't stop chuckling under his breath, because he knows the guy fell for it way too easily. Gayek kicks back, throws out the deal 6,000 herbs for 60,000 gold, and makes it sound like an absolute steal. Zakog was basically about to topple off his chair, screaming like, "Are you seriously sure it's okay to give me a discount this huge?" Gayek shoots back a smooth answer, and just like that, he reminds him they're supposed to. Friends who always got each other's backs. Zakog is basically bowing like he's praying, hands clasped tight. He's thanking Gajek for going so over-the-top generous. Just when Zakog starts thinking his old bully might not be so bad, Gayek simply stands there, staring like a full-on villain. Jayak catches the vibe like lightning. He yanked his glasses into place, glaring as he demanded, "Was Zakog just talking trash about me?" And that question instantly sent Zakog into a full-blown panic. He flailed his hands, drenched in sweat, insisting it's all buried in that gay ex-head. Gayek brushes past it and snaps, "Just sign already." And Zakuk doesn't blink, just slams his name down right on the line, no hesitation. Clutching that signed paper, Gayek's eyes go ice cold, and he starts spiraling about how he's finally landed the guy right where he wanted him. He tells Zakog everything's getting sent to our guild later today. And even then, Zakog is still totally clueless. She just says it sounds perfect to him. Zakog practically darts down the city streets, skipping like he just scored an awesome deal, while Gayek stands there staring him down, already convinced he's a total idiot. The very next day, someone starts pounding on the door hard. Pounding the door like a maniac, Zakog, screaming at the top of his lungs, demands Gayek explain what in the world is happening. Zak watches the door swing open like nothing happened, and it nonchalantly asks if there's some kind of problem. Makog lifts the supplies high, like he's already making his move, and he screams that every single ingredient he sent over is nothing but rank, disgusting garbage. Gayak shoots him a cold glare and fires back, "So what?" Then he points out the contract right there, spells out that they don't take it. Shred every last complaint until Zakog is left utterly crushed and devastated. Zakog is snapping completely, screaming that Gajek had him cornered and set up from the very first second. Gayak just laughs right in his face, basically telling him, "You're making me sound like some kind of a total menace." He straight up doubles down and snaps at Zakog that it's his own fault for being too lazy to even check the merchandise. So Zakog just stands there drenched in sweat, grudgingly admitting it might be true, then snaps back that the whole thing is downright brutal. He's on the verge of tears, screaming that at this pace his entire guild is done for. Gayak doesn't care one bit, he shrugs it off like it's none of his business, and Zakog has only one thing to blame: his own failure. He erupts into a villainous laugh, gloating that this little deal just saved his guild for good. He even dares to say, "Thank goodness," with that total wave of relief on his face, like that alone proves how desperately hard. Heartless, he snatches the door shut and slams the heavy lock in place. Zakog hammers the door and roars his lungs out from the outside, but Gayak just smirks like it's nothing. He outright dismisses that pathetic little guild. Gayak just stands there, grinning like he owns the world, bragging that fewer rival guilds is pure good news for his business, and he keeps bragging like he's some kind of genius, while Hinata just stands there, stuck in place, letting out this long, exhausted sigh because, back at the other guild, Zakog is slumped on the floor, crushed under the chaos of the mess surrounding him like a mountain of crates. He can't shake it. He got played into buying a staggering 6,000 rank F items for a whopping 60,000 gold, and he just keeps staring off into nothing, like he's trapped in his own head. He just stared at the wreckage, still unable to process how he let himself get ripped off that brutally. He snaps for just a second, and slams his fist into the wooden floor, muttering curses under his breath until he springs to his feet and screams that he'll never forgive. "Forgive Gayak for what he did," he pleaded as his guild watched from the back. Even though a part of him already knows deep down, he admits it's partly his own fault for being reckless with the deal. Then he snaps his eyes to his team and realizes they're all staring at him, shocked. They're genuinely some of the kindest people out there, and that's exactly why he makes a silent promise to himself, right then deep in his chest. He swore to himself he'd protect this guild and every soul inside it, no matter what it cost. He looks totally wrecked, panicking as he begs them to tell him if there's anything they can do to save the situation. So please hurry. Then a guild member steps up, and he tells them straight up, he's going to march over to the neighboring merchant guilds and see if anyone's willing to help. Zakog throws him a grateful smile, and you can practically feel the guildmaster's weight crush down on his shoulders, because he knows he has to claw our way out of this nightmare. Right then, one of the guys screams Zakog's name and tells him there's a chance. One guild might actually be willing to work. Zakat can't even believe what he's hearing. He blurts out, "You're serious about finding?" He glances at the mountain of junk they're trapped with and wonders if this guild can even pull it off. Then he snaps back, because a deal like that sounds way too good to be real. A guild member leans in and tells them about a brand new merchant guild, World. He points at the tree and demands, "Tell me, have you ever heard of them, Zakog?" But Zakog basically shrugs and says he has zero clue who they are, and at this point he doesn't care a bit, as long as they're ready to lend a hand. And the member straight up says, "I'm gonna set up a..." Zakog tells him to waste no time and get that meeting with their rep set up right away. Before you know it, the meeting kicks off. Hinata steps in, introduces himself, and greets the potion maker tied to the world tree. Zakog locks eyes with Hinata, and his mind starts racing with the thoughts of. He clocks that the guy is way younger than he ever expected, but he swallows the shock, stays cool, and introduces himself like, "I'm the head of the East District Doctors Guild." Hinata flashed a warm smile at Zakog and told him that he's truly grateful for that meeting, and he's still stuck like, "How am I supposed to thank you enough?" Zakog can't help but stare in awe at how that kid looks so polite and dependable, and Hinata just waves it off, because when things get rough, guilds are supposed to have each other's backs. As Zakog lays out their massive problem, the whole mood snaps, and there they are, sitting on 6,000 medicinal herbs. They can't sell a single thing, and the guild's on the edge of total collapse because of it. He drops his gaze, utterly spent, and admits he's at the end of his rope. He even went as far as to swear he'd do absolutely anything at all if Inada would just step in and help him claw his way out of this mess. Hinata pauses for half a heartbeat, then nods like, "Yeah, this is definitely in a really bad spot." Then he blindsides Zakog, offers to buy all the surplus himself, shutting the guild master down so hard he can't even find a word. Hinata flings out a jaw-dropping offer, 30,000 gold for the whole lot. And it hits Zakog like the kind of money that can't possibly be real. When Zakog starts freaking out, Hinata fires off, "What's wrong?" But the poor guy can barely talk, he just stammers, desperately trying to wrap his head around the deal. Once the deal is sealed, Hinata flashes a quick polite bow, tells them he's heading out, but Zakog starts stammering, blurting for him to wait. While Hinata glances back, her face full of what's wrong. The older guy is still stunned out of his mind. He blurts, "Wait, are you really sure you want to buy all * those herbs, Hinata? Because they're stuck at F rank, good as nothing to anyone but themselves." Hinata flashes him a bright smile and tells him not to worry because they'll 100% find a way to put those skills to work, right where they'll count. And he explains that his specific skills are built to take it on. Do it anyway, he refuses to spill the real process, even as he keeps the details locked up tight. Zakog's jaw practically crashes to the floor as he blurts out, asking if could something like that even exist at all. There's no way someone as young as Hinata could possibly have that kind of talent. He breaks down in tears and asks again, voice shaking, "Is Hinata really you?" calling him a total lifesaver for saving them. He snatched Hinata's hands and blared, yelling that the Yggdrasil Guild was absolutely incredible, while Hinata tries to downplay it. Zakog's still stuck in shock from that meeting, because it blows his mind that a guild this cracked can stay hidden. So he pounds his chest and tells Hinata, "Come find me anytime if you ever." He never ends up stuck. Hinata just flashes a quick goodbye, strides off and swears he'll remember it, while Zakog keeps screaming after him. Standing there, he wore pure respect on his face, all while his mind drifted back to Hinata, the potion maker. From this exact moment onward, everything changes, no going back. Hinata is showing up in this world, and it's already starting to shake everything up for Zaka. Zakog makes a ruthless vow to himself. He'll never ever forget that name for the rest of his life. As Hinata strides off, the story starts teasing what comes next. How? And he's about to level up into something far bigger than he could ever imagine. But that calm peace shatters the second someone in the street starts screaming for help. The screaming swells louder and louder as a desperate cry for help ricochets through the neighborhood. At the medical guild, Gayak is only trying to catch a moment of peace, right in the middle of all the chaos. He takes a sip of tea, then snaps, demanding to know what the heck all this noise is about. The doctor looks absolutely rattled as the whole mess spirals out of control while he's trying to explain it. Turns out some of the kids from the orphanage are out. Outside, chaos erupts, and it hits the nun so hard she's totally caught off guard. She looks completely wrecked, like she has no idea what to do and she just keeps pleading, begging anyone, please, somebody help her. But inside the guild, Giek is lounging back, casually sipping tea like he's got the whole place under control. And he's demanding, "Why are you here at all if you can't pay?" While his staff grumbles that these people are nothing but a headache. Gayak loses it and barks for his men to shut them up. And right away one of the doctors salutes before sprinting for the window. He throws himself forward and roars at the crowd that if they've got no money, they won't get a single ounce of medical treatment. He keeps yelling at the nun to get out, like she's just getting in the guild master's way. And the nun just can't process what she's hearing. She stands there stunned, asking how anyone could be that cold. She drops to the floor in a heartbeat and begs them, straight up saying the orphans' fevers are raging and they're dying right now. But Gayak just keeps sipping his tea, smugly saying they deserve it. And then he shrugs like he truly doesn't care how many orphans end up dying. The doctor bluntly makes it crystal clear. This isn't charity and they're leaving them. A nun was completely breaking down as she screamed that she'd do absolutely anything to pay them back. She even pitches the idea of the kids helping with chores and weeding once they're up and running again. But the doctor just looks utterly baffled by the whole offer. He snaps at her, roaring that the medical guild isn't a place where orphans are even allowed to set foot. As he presses her with one scary question, what if she accidentally infects every single one of his rich, noble patients? She can't believe the cruelty anymore, so she snaps, "God's watching every step you take," which makes the doctor sneer at her, labeling them awful for big talk that never turns into a single cash move. Feeling like she's out of options, she offers her own body, anything just so she can. He can finally push him to save the kids' lives. The doctor shuts his eyes and coldly tells her he's got zero interest in some pathetic pauper like her. The doctor flicks his eyes away with a smug grin, reminding the nun loudly, proudly, that he's a noble and a doctor. He makes it painfully clear he's not exactly chasing after women. So the guild boots them both out, no mercy. The nun grits her teeth and sighs in fury as she drags the kid into the dark alley while back inside, Hinata drops down and settles in like she's catching her breath, waiting for what happens next. With a steaming cup of tea in hand, he tells Kira he handled everything like a champ and the noble. Him snapping his hand out in furious gestures as he spits that those poor people are a cancer, poisoning the whole town. He tells her, if you help them even once, they'll get cocky and start demanding everything from Hinata, just like that. Just nods like it's the most obvious thing, mumbling that yeah, he's supposed to be right and he knows it. He's almost certain they won't ever show their faces again after getting chased off like that. He's dead sure they'll never come back, but the very next day hits, and Hinata and the doctor step out into the city streets, strolling along when. Then boom, this nun drops out of nowhere looking utterly wrecked, and she screams at them to please wait. Then she steps straight into their path, tears streaming down her face, and begs them for help one last time. She actually clamps onto Hinata's arm, catching him completely off guard, and fires off the words that she'll do absolutely anything. Kira snaps, explodes into a scream, orders the nun to shut up and keep her hands off him, then violently shoves her back. So hard she tumbles and she totally loses her, and gets blasted backward through the air. The nun slams onto the floor and just lies there completely stunned, eyes wide, totally out of it. Shot her a cold stare and said it was only a mild concussion, like leaving her there wouldn't kill her. So Hinata drops a warning on the unconscious woman, tells her she's in the way, then whips around and orders Kira to clean up the trash. Kira jabs one final shove with his foot to clear the way, then declares it's finally good enough. With everything finally locked in place, Hinata stands there arms crossed and snaps that it's time to kick off the real work, but then he snaps into maniac laughter, shouting that helping people with a job is the absolute best because they get paid and people actually thank them for it. He barrels forward, yelling at the top of his lungs about how what they do for a living is the most noble, the most satisfying, and nothing else even comes close. He's convinced there's something truly special, like way above everyone else, especially those sisters he saw back at the orphanage. Kira's still up on his high horse, ranting that sharing the same air as commoners makes him sick, while he stops dead for a heartbeat and a strange look flashes in his eyes. Then he bursts out, shouting he's totally okay with it, so long as they cough up the money. With his arms locked tight, he keeps yelling, saying he'd even spare a commoner's life if the price was right. He heads for the town square, and right there, people bustle through the streets like nothing's happening, just day after day after day. And there's Hinata, trudging along alone with a bag slung over his shoulder, looking completely wiped out. Suddenly, he hears a riot of noise and whips his head around, only to find a whole crowd packed tight around something. Hinata spots the nun sprawled face down on the pavement, and he can't even process what he's seeing, so he barrels over and drops to his knees, firing off, "Are you okay?" And she only lets out a weak little groan. He stares at her deathly pale face and suddenly realizes this is way past ordinary, and snaps that he has to get her to a hospital right now. Hinata glances at the nun and suddenly realizes his old medical guild is right there nearby. But he's torn to the bone because Gayak's a total jerk, the kind who wouldn't lift a finger to help someone like her. And since he's broken can't cough up their wild fees, even the thought of begging that guy for help turns his stomach. So he decides the smartest play is rushing her straight to the Yggdrasil World Tree Guild. As he hustles her through the streets, he keeps his head high, swearing his own potions can fix whatever's hurting her. Then later, the nun finally stirs, lets out a tiny groan, and her eyes flutter open like she's breaking free from a deep sleep. She jolts upright in bed, scans the strange room, and can't stop thinking, where am I? She scrambles to piece it back together. She knows she ran to the medical guild for help. But then it all cuts out like her memories vanish until Hinata leans in and asks if she's finally awake. Hinata stands right there by the edge, right where everything could snap. By her bedside, he slid in a fresh glass of water to help her start recovering again. Notices her confusion, then swiftly tells her, "You're safe at the World Tree Merchant Guild." The kid proudly introduces himself as Hinata, the potion maker, and the nun finally starts to calm down. She finally clicks, he's the same guy who took care of her while she was gone, and she blurts out a heartfelt thank you straight from the heart. Hinata just flashes a grin, shrugs it off like it's nothing. He told everyone it was just a light bruise, and then that high-grade potion kicked in, fixing her right up. The second he even brings up a high-grade potion, that nun snaps, because those things are unbelievably rare and priced like gold. She spirals in panic, blabbering about the price, and then blurts, "How am I ever supposed to pay you back for something this insane?" Hinata tells her to chill. He did it because he wanted to, no payback, no strings attached, so yeah, it leaves her. Staring at him like he's some holy saint, she can't stop thinking about just how truly wonderful he is. He's an absolute legend, no joke. She can't even believe he'd travel that far for a total stranger, without asking for anything, while she just stares at him, stunned. Then it all snaps into place in her head, and she realizes this has to be Hinata-sama. Deciding he's basically God sends an angel straight to him. Then she lunges in, grabs his attention, and boldly asks him to marry her. Minata gets blindsided by the sudden proposal, and in a burst of pure shock, he yells out before he can even process it. The nun scoots closer and ignites the moment with a spark, sparkling eyes blazing as she begs him to marry her, and Hinata panics, scrambling to ask why she'd even say something that insane. She goes all bashful, starts fidgeting like crazy, and blurts out that she literally can't think of any other way to repay him for saving her, so she tells him not to stress, because if she really puts her mind to it, she can clean up just fine, yet that only makes Hinata spiral even more as he awkwardly tries to wave it off. He blurts out that he already thinks she's a beautiful person, and right after it slips out, he realizes too late that it sounds completely wrong. He tries to snatch it back right away, but the nun only grins and tells him he's just scared to admit what he's really feeling. Hinata, sweating like crazy, tries to get through to her, but she just waves him off and snaps that it's only a matter of time until she finally makes him fall for her for real, leaving Hinata so stressed his brain feels like it's about to melt. He straight up asks her if she smacked her head too hard because she's totally losing it, and she needs to lie back down right now. She shoots him a cheeky wink, then leans in and tells him. Turns out she's completely sane, and she's not backing down, not for a second. Maria shoots him a playful wink, then shuts him down, telling him not to just call her sister. But when he finally called her sister, Maria, Hinata's cheeks burn red, her words tumble out as she blurts her name, then she panics, begging him to just stay in bed and get some rest. Sweat pours down his face as the tension screams, and he blurts out that she's still his patient under his watch. Maria pauses, gives in, and admits he's right, until she slips and accidentally calls. Shouts Lady Hinata right there in the thick of it, like the moment demands it. She basically admits that proposing to a guy the exact moment you wake up is probably isn't the most normal thing to do, and that alone already screams trouble. She asks if he honestly thinks it's that weird, especially since he's the same guy who just saved her life. Hinata looks totally wiped out as she insists she's definitely exaggerating what happened. But Maria refuses to listen. She slaps a hand to her heart and insists with absolute certainty that he really did save her. She snaps her eyes shut, swears she has to thank him one last time, and total confusion slams across her face as it hits. She's genuinely forgotten something pretty important. Maria stares around, totally baffled, trying to piece together how she ever stumbled into this chaos. But then her eyes snap wide open as her mind jolts. She just remembered something enormous, and she rockets out of bed, screaming that she has to get back to the orphanage right now. Hinata panics on the spot, blurts out, "What are you doing?" and insists, no, demands that she stays in bed. He tells her flat out that he can't possibly let her walk out like that. But Mario shrugs it off and snaps, saying the kids at the orphanage are all sick. She starts to tear up, admitting they're probably going through some truly terrible, raging fevers are hitting you right now. And she's dead sure those kids have been hanging on her every heartbeat, just waiting for her to finally walk through the door. The room goes deathly silent for one beat, then the pieces finally start to move. Everything finally clicks into place. And Zakug finally realizes she was just another victim, handled like total trash, and Gayak's trash. Lyra leaps in and says they can totally pull this off. And before Maria can even blink, Hinata snaps that he'll help her, shocking Maria so hard she can't move as the plan kicks into motion. Turns out the guild just got hit with a huge shipment of crappy herbs, so battered they're not even fit to make it onto the ship. But Hinata realizes they're exactly what he needs to whip up basic health potions, and he tells everyone they can break them down and use them fast. Break the batch down and turn it into E-rank medicine. And he basically pitches it like, World Tree Guild, just hand over the whole stash straight to the orphanage. Those sick kids need it now. Maria gets totally blindsided, staring at him like her brain just froze, her eyes locked on his face. She clapped a hand over her mouth, eyes wide like she couldn't possibly be hearing this. She's so overwhelmed her cheeks flood red and she blurts, "Wait, are you serious? You're really giving all of this to us for free?" Hinata starts to panic and blurts, "Isn't that enough help?" While Maria frantically flails her hands, trying to get it through to him that he's already doing way too much. Tears crowd her eyes as she whispers, "Are you sure it's really okay for our orphanage to accept a charity this huge?" But Inada locks eyes with her and says, "If you just let us help, it's the guild that'll end up feeling grateful." Maria snaps and starts yelling that he's an angel sent straight from above, calling him basically God himself for being that kind. She's crying happy tears, yelling that she can't believe he's saving both her and the kids. Then Hinata turns beet red and blurts out that he made way too big a deal out of it. He tells them straight up he only wants one thing, those kids to grow up healthy, and then he flashes her a huge, honest smile and tells her straight up, he just wants to see them stay happy. Maria fires off a quick question, should we head to the... They rushed into the orphanage right away, stared at him like he was a legend, and shouted his name like he'd just saved them all. She says he's wonderful, but Hinata doesn't even look up. she's locked onto the job, cutting in that they've got to get there. Maria snaps in shock, asking if he's really starting right now, and he tells her no, wait. Whipped up the whole batch in a flash. Maria's jaw hits the floor as she blurts out, wait, can one person really produce 6,000 units? Hinata casually says his crafting skill lets him knock out the whole job in just 30 minutes. And Maria immediately erupts in total disbelief. She starts trembling, locks eyes with him, and can't help wondering who he really is. How can someone be this powerful? But then, when Lyra swings the door open to tell Hinata there's a visitor, Hinata's left on edge, burning to find out who's come to the guild for him. Hinata tilts her head and spots a familiar face striding through the Zakog. He waves big and tells her thank you for everything she did for him the other day. Zakog stands there, slightly bashful, and blurts out that he genuinely wanted to stop by just to show his appreciation. He says his business is finally crawling back to life, but Hinata shrugs it off and insists he wants nothing from anyone. Zakog refuses to take no for an answer, shoves a heavy wooden box right at Hinata and demands he take it, because this thing is definitely going to come in handy. Hinata peers inside and just stops cold, struggling to even spot what's there. He goes searching for the right words the moment he finally sees what's inside. Packed inside the box are slime cores, just what he needs to whip up a giant batch of low-grade health potions. Hinata blurted talk about perfect timing, right as he was about to start making potions for. For the orphanage, Zakog can't help grinning, because he finally got to pitch in and make a difference. Zakog leans in and tells him, you don't just help, you're always there saving people. People say it like it means something, but Hinata just shrugs it off, like it was nothing more than dumb luck. He's basically thrilled because his production costs just plummeted, leaving Zakog grinning, because he knew Hinata would stay humble. Hinata finally clicks. Kindness really does come back to you, and right after that, he tells Maria he'll rush to the orphanage the moment everything's ready. Hinata tells Sister Maria to head back and check on the kids while he finishes up, and she agrees. Then he can't stop thinking, see, being a good guy really does pay off. But then he slams the brakes mid-thought, like wait, he wants to act, not just think. Try to play it cool, but right when you think you're safe, boom, the problem hits. Hinata looks at Maria's state and tells her straight up, she's in no condition to be stumbling around just yet. She shrugs it off and tells him she'll be totally fine alone, but Hinata won't let it slide. He tells her you're not going anywhere, because deep down he's scared for her health too. He looked at her totally caught off guard by how much he cared, and it instantly made everything feel awkward. Hinata blurts out that he's also been worried sick about the kids at the orphanage. He just knows they've been spiraling in stress ever since she vanished for so long. And because he needs to get the medicine to them fast, he starts burning his brain, scrambling for the perfect plan. When Lyra barges into the room and offers to go over there in their place, she offers to help, and that sudden kindness blindsides Hinata. She tells him, you've pushed yourself way too far today, now I've got the rest. Layla winks at Hinata and flat out tells her she can't just stand there. They just stand there and stare. She's got to jump in the second she spots him getting crushed in a mess like this. Hinata's blood ignites with pure hype, and she's ready to explode into action. He leans in and tells her help would be a total game changer. Then guilt hits him hard. He rakes his hand through his hair, then blurts an apology. Because yeah, he's been leaning on her way too hard and she's his boss. She grabs his worries and swears it's totally fine, she'd do anything for him so he doesn't have to hold back anymore. He can lean on her anytime. Hinata just lets out a shaky sigh, saying her name like it's slipping out, fully overwhelmed by how sweet and caring she's been, especially while she snatches her things and gives a goodbye wave. Then she strolls away and Hinata can't stop thinking, wow, she's genuinely an amazing person. Zakog watches it all unfold and then bursts into wild laughter, saying they're perfectly in sync, like clockwork, and he even throws in a joke that they act just like a married couple. That totally flusters Hinata, and he snaps at Zakog to stop the teasing, because something like that is just flat-out impossible. He starts clocking Layla as a noble, a guild leader, and an absolute stunner. So far above him, it fries his brain trying to even process it. When Kira starts pouting at him, jealousy hits her hard. She insists it's impossible, especially when he already has her right there beside him. Zakog's loving every second. He smirks and tells Hinata he's got the ladies wrapped around his finger, while Hinata tries to get Sister Maria to finally calm down. Lyra just stands there, glaring like the whole scene is personally ticking her off. She huffs, clutches her bag to her chest, and can't stop wondering what's going on. And then bam, this random nun just shows up out of nowhere, like the story itself summoned her. And she just can't stop staring at her, a heavy, unsettling feeling crawling up her chest. Competition began to heat up fast. To Lyra, the way that woman glares at Hinata is straight up wild. She looks like a predator that just spotted its next meal, and so Lyra realizes she can't just sit there anymore. she clenches her resolve and decides she's taking charge herself. The one who dares to strike first. A little later, she storms up to the building's front gates, and in that instant, the orphanage clicks in her head. It's a complete wreck, broken windows everywhere, boards nailed up like it's been left to rot. She spots the place is trashed, but she throws the doors wide anyway and yells, "Is anyone in there?" The moment she steps in, a giant blast of dust slams into her face, and she starts coughing like her lungs are on fire. He pushes into the building, and boom, a disgusting stench smacks him in the face. The place is unbearably dusty, reeking of mold, and it gets even worse because so high it wrecks your health fast. Then she finally gets why everyone around here is falling sick, and then anxiety starts clawing at him, making him wonder how are these kids even still alive with that nasty hygiene and that awful food? But the moment she steps into the main room, she freezes dead in her tracks, totally floored. Seeing kids sprawled all over the place, face down on the floor, pure chaos, and she knows it's only getting worse from here. She's realizing way too late that things are way worse than she ever imagined. She doesn't just stand there, she snaps on a mask and starts scrubbing down one of the. She gets him clean, then hustles straight into the kitchen. She knows he needs something warm in his belly, so he hustles to work and starts cooking up a meal. And while she's on the job, Hinata keeps flashing through her mind. She's basically begging the universe, "Show up, please," like her life depends on it, and she needs him to haul ass and get there right now. Now she pushes through to the very end, wiping the sweat off her forehead, then stealing a quick breath before she moves again. That little girl manages to swallow a few bites of the porridge Lyra made, but it's obvious she's nowhere near getting her strength back. She looks completely wrung out, like she's running on empty. Out of nowhere, someone screams "Lyra" from across the room, and she jolts hard like she just got struck by lightning. Inada busted through the door with a massive pack, blurted out an apology, and Lyra can't believe it. How could it take him so long and then finish the medicine in a flash? She panics the second he almost blurts out her fake name, but Hinata just shuts the moment down and says he barreled over so they could start treating the orphans immediately. He hands the first girl a potion, she gulps it down, and a warm golden light suddenly ignites from within, lighting up her whole body. Lyra sees the girl start looking healthy again, and the girl gratefully calls her big sister. And Lyra flashes that smile and tells them, straight up, to get moving. "Get well soon, I'm so relieved you're okay." Things are finally turning around, and it looks like everyone's full recovery is only a breath away. Hinata hefts a crate of medicine, grins, and promises he'll stash the leftover potions in the orphanage storage, and as they stride along, Lyra leans in and tells him, straight up, that he's been nothing short of amazing for everything he's done. Hinata just grins and says it's all because of her for taking care of the kids. Lyra's cheeks flare red so hard she can't even breathe. And right then she realizes he's the only one who truly gives her credit and actually sees her worth. Since everyone else just shrugs and expects her to handle everything, because she's the guildly one. She finally clocks it, she's catching feelings for him too. His voice drops to his head, and he says working together like this makes him feel like they're basically acting like a married couple at this point. Lyra totally snaps. She just freezes on the spot, blurting out these weird little sounds, eyes wide with pure shock at what he's just said. Lyra lets out a confused gasp. He doesn't just stop there, he cuts himself off mid-sentence. "I'm not a..." He totally panics and blurts, "Did I really say that out loud?" He launches into a non-stop apology spree, like he can't stop begging for forgiveness. He flipped out, insisting he only brought it up because Zakog said something so weird. Lyra's cheeks flare and she admits, softly, that she wouldn't really mind it, but Hinata's already busy stumbling overwhelmed by his own words. He shuts that idea down immediately, straight up saying there's no way he and Lyra could ever happen. Would they ever actually become a real married couple? Lyra just stands there, totally frozen in shock at how brutally hard. How hard he keeps denying it. She starts to feel unsure and she just caw. And he's so shocked he doesn't even know how to react anymore. He's just sitting there like he feels nothing for her. Does he really have zero heart for her at all? A tiny groan slips out of the bed. One of the sick kids mutters through his sleep, calling out for his dad like it's all he can reach. That timing is so brutal and awkward that both of them just lock up on the spot, staring as if they can't even breathe, waiting. So Hinata blurts out that he's gonna clean up, then bolts, leaving Lyra stuck there alone. Hinata and Lyra are both completely rattled by that weird moment, and Hinata blurts out loud, "I'm counting on you." He forces out a shaky, nervous laugh, then bolts ahead like nothing happened, while a whole week crashes by. After that day at the orphanage, everything seemed to be finally taking off, like the world was starting to move again. Going great, there's chaos in the best way. The kids are sprinting and laughing outside the church again, and Sister Maria. Overjoyed, he burst out to Lyra, and Hinata just stares at her like, "I don't even know how I'll ever repay the Yggdrasil Guild for what they've done. For saving them, Lyra just flicks the whole thing off with a grin, telling them, don't stress, none of this is on you because staying right there with the community, throwing down to help people whenever they needed it. That's exactly what a guild is built to do. With giant grins, the kids and Sister Maria wave them off while Hinata and Lyra finally start heading back. As they head down the street, Lyra shoots a look at Hinata and blurts that there's something she's been keeping to herself. She's been dying to know, so she leans in and asks him straight, was that potion he used back then really just some basic E-rank stuff? Lyra just locks eyes with him and freezes, quiet for a beat, which makes Hinata break into a cold sweat. As he feigns ignorance and flat-out claims he has no clue what she's talking about. But she doesn't buy a single word. She snaps him a razor-sharp look and then he blurts that the potion's effects hit harder than anything he could have possibly promised. Hinata finally cracks, admits he can't keep it hidden, lets out a long sigh and blurts out. She basically says, I figured it out, while he rubs the back of his neck and admits it was way higher than he thought. A stronger grade potion than he ever let her hear about. He whips his hands around fast, insisting that because he did it himself, he made sure to pay for the materials, at least up to the point where the story cuts off. He pays for it with his own cash, then leans in and tells her he's still got some of that reward money left. The same money he pocketed after saving the Viscount. But Lyra halts, stares him down, and asks if he's truly sure he wants to burn his own money like that, especially when he's got his sister to worry about. She starts talking about how much he'll need just to eat and survive, but Hinata snaps right in and shuts it down, saying it's totally fine. She refuses to let it go, not for a second, and demands to know what he's going to do about his sister's sickness, if he's just throwing his money away. So Hinata just glances off to the side with a crushed look, then admits that even regular potions won't fix what's hurting her. Lyra stands frozen, eyes wide with pure shock at everything Hinata just blurted out. She drops her gaze and in a soft voice tells him that his kindness is getting him into trouble. Hinata just rubs the back of his head and blurts that it's absolutely not like that at all. Lyra can't stop blushing and grinning because the way he is, just this unbelievably nice guy, keeps replaying in her mind. But as they stroll down the street, and she can't stop wondering how long until he finally realizes what she's been feeling. Then she thinks it over and decides to slip him a secret bonus for all the help he's given her. The two of them finally hustle back to the Yggdrasil Merchant Guild building, and then rushes straight into the warehouse, where Hinata gears up to work while a staff member keeps an eye on the whole area. He thrusts his hands forward and unleashes his material boost, and a glowing magic circle blooms right above the barrel. He's right in the middle of his work when someone calls his name. He snaps around, hunting for whoever just spoke to him. Lyra spots Hinata mid-task, grabs his attention, and shoots him the exact question he's been dodging right as they're caught. So Hinata jabs a finger at the bucket and says he's only purifying the water with his material boost skill. He's totally stunned, blurts out that there's no way he can seriously pull off something that insane, especially since holy water is basically just regular clean water with a fancy name. Water when you strip it all the way down to the truth. Because high-quality potions only work if the water is crystal clean or even holy. This becomes a massive deal, especially since most folks have to trek across town to a church just to get a single prayer said over something. But Hinata tells her, relax, I can make it myself. And with that one skill, he's able to whip up everything at lightning speed. Lyra just stands there dazed and then drops the bomb. His skill makes the whole church completely pointless. She starts to doubt whether he even has a shred of respect for religion, and right when he agrees, Hinata's whole body tenses up and sweat starts to pour, like he's about to say the wrong thing, but then he cuts himself off. Panic hits him instantly, and he screams that everything she's saying is 100% false. Lyra just shrugs it off with a wicked wink, grinning at Hinata and flat out saying she was only messing around about that whole church thing. But Hinata is clearly flustered. She straight up asks if he honestly has nothing better to do than mess with him. Lyra snapped right into defense mode, and he starts yelling that he's the one who's always dropping by to see her, while Hinata can't even get the words out and just stammers. Right when the other workers clock what's happening, one dude blurts out that the guild master didn't just show up. He's here for Hinata specifically. Then the spiky-haired guy jumps in, teasing him like, relax, he's not stressing for no reason, he's just trying to finish up fast so he can see her. Hinata stares wide-eyed and asks if that rumor is really true. Then Lyra's face drops and she freaks out, shouting that it's not. She got so mortified that she snapped. She snaps, screams, and makes it crystal clear she doesn't care about Hinata anymore. She storms off in a rage, and the glasses-wearing guy just stands there watching her disappear, while Hinata is left trying to. The spiky-haired guy just shrugs it off, then tells Hinata, don't stress, this is just the way she is. So Hinata just stands there gripping his bucket of water, realizing, amid all the chaos, he's actually loving his new job. Hinata stares into the rippling water, watching his reflection sink and rise as memories of how he used to wield all that holy water crash over. Back at his old place, the production grinds to a stop, because once he's gone, the medical guild suddenly realizes something is missing. He's gotta head to the church to get it. He never once told them he was building it, and now he's left wondering if they'll even pull it off. Then it hits him, this isn't just any conversation, it's a professional medical guild, and they gotta know the basics first, so he finally decides. So why should he even worry about a guild that already kicked him out? He tells himself, forget everything else, just lock in on the job right in front of you. Hinata steadied his breath and dove right into it, pouring every ounce of his focus into the water in that bucket. The storage shelves are packed tight now, everything's finally shoved into place, ready to roll. Hinata wiped the sweat from his forehead, grinning like he just scored a huge win after brewing another massive batch of potions today. Right as Hinata finishes up and wipes the sweat off his forehead, Lyra strides over and asks if he's got a moment. She leans in and tells him there's something huge she has to say to him. No delay, no games. Hinata abruptly halts what he's doing and leans in, asking, "What's wrong? Talk to me." Lyra wastes no time. She cuts right to the chase and asks if they can start selling holy water at the Yggdrasil Guild. The idea slams into Hinata and leaves her totally stunned. Totally blindsided, he can't even process it as she suggests they sell holy water right there. He starts pacing it in his head, then admits he can absolutely pull it off, until he drops the catch. Hinata's freaking out. If they start selling it themselves, they'll basically be ripping off the church's entire livelihood. Lyra droops her shoulders, admits he's right, and her disappointment hits hard right up until his eyes snap open as it clicks in an instant. He blurts out that he finally figured it out and tells her. He says it's way simpler than everyone thinks. First, they've got to rush to the church and get permission. Hinata tells them, if we just toss the church a slice of every sale, there won't be a single problem. Lyra's completely in, and when she blurts that it's a killer idea, it makes him. Hinata decides to rush in and negotiate right away, while Lyra leans in and tells him she's counting on him. He heads to the church and the nun just stands there, utterly baffled by the request. She double-checks her ears, because she can't believe he wants to deal with the holy water himself. Hinata snaps out a clear, no doubt confirmation. His guild is gunning to seize the entire process for themselves. But then worry crashes in, sweat starts building inside him like, they're just going to. I'm going to shut him down right there on the spot. Surprisingly, the nun clenches her hands together and blurts out that this would honestly be a huge help. Crafting enough holy water for their potions is a brutal grind for them, and it only gets worse every day. Merchants roll in, snatch huge loads, and the sisters are left completely swamped. Sister Maria says they were so understaffed they couldn't spare a single soul for the orphanage, so it all got left behind. All those kids are trapped in a bad spot. She's clearly shaken, and when she finally admits she put them in danger, the truth hits hard. The other day, Hinata asked if that church was the one running the orphanage, and she said yes, but then it hits her, she blinks, then asks if he's the guy who saved the kids, and Hinata just gives a quick, simple nod. Hinata steps up and officially introduces himself. From the World Tree Yggdrasil Guild, forging ahead, making Mario realize the church always gets rescued because it's basically him. And when Hinata catches on, she blushes, tries to play it cool and brushes it off, saying, it's nothing compared to how much she's pulled him up, she's the reason he can even stand. He stops at the church every single morning before he kicks off the day. And that's when things get weird because he storms into that place of worship, begging and praying that his sister's illness finally breaks because doing that calms his mind 1,000 times more than just sitting around with nothing to do. Hinata shoots him a quick question. Is it cool if I sell the holy water back at the guild? And Sister Maria's like, that's a brilliant idea. She swears it'll help them out big time too. She gets way too confident and blurts out how much of her sales she has to pay him. But the second money hits her brain, it throws her completely off balance. Leaving Hinata to spell it out, of course money's involved, because that church clearly needs cash. He points at the orphanage, trashed and beat up, and says it's obvious they're getting 0 donations. Mario just stares at him, completely moved by how much he's locked in on their situation like it's his to handle. So she grips his hands and tells him she'll gladly take him up on that offer. Looks like these two are teaming up for real, and it's about to turn into a win for everyone. A few weeks slam by and life finally starts rolling, until Naira suddenly bursts out, calling Hinata's name at the guild like something seriously wrong. She's all fired up, and she tells him the holy water sales are blowing past every expectation. Hinata's face lights up as things finally start going his way, and he rushes to tell Lyra he's genuinely so relieved to hear it. Ever since the Yggdrasil World Tree, holy water has been flying off the shelves like wildfire. Yeah, and it gets even crazier. Out of nowhere, Hinata never even dreamed they'd be begging for this kind of stuff. The stakes would be insane, but the reason behind it clicks perfectly. While the commercial district soaks in daily potion deals by the truckload, the church sits way out from the main shops, so most people have to make a real trek just to get there, meaning most. Most folks would rather grab it from the guild right down the road, even if it burns their pockets a little more. A customer grips a giant jar and tells Hinata that getting it right here was a total lifesaver. He claims snagging holy water has suddenly gotten way easier, just like Sister. Sister Maria busts into the scene, waving like crazy and shouting Hinata's name. Hinata snaps his head over and spots her pushing through the crowd. Hinata blurts out what's happening, and she tells him she only swung by to say thanks again, just to make sure he knows it. Sister Maria stares. She's beyond thrilled as she tells Hinata the orphanage renovation finally got the go-ahead. And it all comes down to him, he's the reason everything happened. Lyra practically beams and says it's the most amazing news. Then Maria jumps in, those holy waters bring in the money. Every sale hit like a game changer. So Hinata glances back at them with a bright grin, genuinely thrilled that he could finally step up and lend a hand. Maria says that if the place kept crumbling the way it was, the kids would have gotten sick again. No doubt about it. Lyra's basically shouting her support. She flashes him a huge grin and tells him straight up that he totally nailed it. Just then, Maria snaps into full territorial mode and tells Lyra that she and Hinata are literally talking right now. And Lyra is left staring in total disbelief. Lyra snaps, yells that she's not playing around, and demands she talk to him right now. Hinata's doing the same, just standing there with a nervous laugh, like she's watching the whole thing spiral out of control. Turns out Hinata pulled off one more miracle. Because of him, the orphanage is finally, officially saved. The story slams over to the medical guild, where someone is gearing up for something huge starting right now. Gajek's gone completely unhinged as he screams, "This time no way it fails," swearing he'll finally nail that potion. Kira bursts in, shouting that every single ingredient for the potion is finally ready but he stops and fires off the guild master, demanding to know the plan for the water supply. Totally confused why he's even asking, so Kira snaps back and reminds him what. Water is the secret ingredient that basically makes or breaks every potion. Gajek totally loses control and orders him to get it ready however he wants, right down to that G cutoff. The guy is so incompetent he ruins everything while he's at it. Because this is a massive medical guild, they clearly have their own. They carved out their own little well on site to use. Kira hauls a crushing heavy bucket back and roars that he's got the water, because they always end up needing it for surgeries anyway. Gajek peeks inside and recoils. This water looks grimy, filthy, and downright disgusting. Kira tells Gajek, yesterday was chaos, wind howled, rain hammered, so yeah, trash probably got blown straight into that well. And Gajek just keeps nodding like it all makes perfect sense. Gajek shrugs it off, saying it's no big deal, because nobody's even thinking about drinking the stuff. He's totally okay with it, because that potion is made to be poured straight onto, to rip open those wounds and let the magic finally do its work. Gajek keeps pushing his argument, insisting that the filthy water is the real problem. Water doesn't matter until someone starts drinking it, and then he tells Kira to get to work, swearing nobody would ever bother with a potion meant to be used just on the skin. Kira blurts a rapid, instant yes without even thinking. A few hours later, the room is packed, every corner swallowed up by rows of. Kira cracks a smile and says they finally struck gold. Those bottled potions are stacked up enough to carry them through the whole game. Gajek leans in close, pats his head, and tells him exactly how. It was effortless and he absolutely crushed it, like a total legend. Kira flashes a huge smile, thanks the guild master to his face, and all the other doctors just stand there staring in disbelief. Gajek scratches his chin and blurts out, "Be honest, does Hinata really burn time on tasks this easy every single day?" The other doctors started chiming in, bragging that they'd done it so much faster themselves, and then sneered that Hinata was a total waste of money. Gajek flashes a smug grin and smirks, "I knew it from the start." Renat threw her hands up, screaming, "We didn't even need a potion maker in the first place, like that's the real reason it all starts." Gajek bursts into uncontrollable laughter, thumping his chest and bragging that he's been proven right again.